Okay, and which activates the inner and core flames, activating the 20,736 Partakai cells of the atom. The entire light body and Rasha body flash off, which means they pull all the way into creation point and into the source consciousness field. They flash off and pull into, well, part of them pulls into the source anyway, and part of them pull into the Hall of Records, Akasha Te, 8th cell of the spirit body, setting the manifest light body and dark matter Rasha body encryption into the first cell. So this is how that is set in. So it's through activation of the flame cycle and bringing together of the currents from the Adori and the Tori side that they're able to imprint the entire content of what has been created outside of it into the memory matrix of the Akashic record. Next one, please. Yeah, I know, they're really staticky. They're sticking together. This is simply, when we talk about the adjugate twins, if you look at, now there's an association with each of the Illyrian chambers. They are actually responsible for making specific atom, or the encryption for specific elements that appear on the periodic table. So let's say you have proton number 1, hydrogen, right? That has 1 proton. It's number 1 up there. And this is the density 1 cycle. All right. Its adjugate cross vector would be number 7, which is nitrogen. Right? If you take helium, which is number 2, has 2 protons in its nucleus, you come over and it's number 8. 2 and 8 are adjugates. So when it talks about bringing the adjugate currents together, it's talking about the elemental currents and literally bringing atoms together, and from the Adori and the Atori side. And something fascinating we'll find out a little bit more about later happens when you bring them together. Every one of them, it doesn't matter which combination, as long as it's with its adjugate, it will form what is called celestaline, which is a transient element, but it allows for literally the whole matter structure turns to liquid light and pulls into the center. So we're learning a little bit more about that. So these are just showing you each density levels of the adjugate pairings. And I didn't have time to write all the who's and what's are in there. But it goes with the elements that are on the atomic, the periodic table of elements. And that goes with the larger structure that we won't have a lot of time to cover today, but we did introduce, and it was introduced in Virginia Beach, where each one of these represents one of the Illyrian chambers, and you can put them together where an Illyrian chamber crosses through a span, it creates a specific type of element encryption. And you get the natural periodic table from there, and it shows you what proton numbers should be where, and what ones correspond to what span and Illyrian chamber connection. So there's a lot more to this. We're just learning this, but I wanted to show you this. So when we talk about bringing the Atori and the Adori currents together, the adjugate twin pair currents together, it's talking about literally bringing together atoms. Next one, please. Elemental atoms. Oh boy, here we go. Yeah. Let me try the glasses on this one. I don't know if they make it better or worse, actually. Oh, that's big. Now, I'm going to fall off the stage if I wear these. I think I'll just try it blurry. First 15 days of creation, day 9 and 10. The Rosetta Sun, the Unisun, and atomic something or other. What does that say? I can't even read it. Flows, that's right. I can't read my own writing. Az is usually really good at that. I say, I don't know what it is. Can you read it? And he's really good. He can translate it. Anyway, day 9, the 2 main things that happen here are the Rosetta flows and the Unisay. All right. The cosmic Unisay, 30-cell light body elemental command cluster, births within the inner light body Rosetta cluster, opening the Akashic and Akushik record first cells and drawing in the 144 manifest elemental base element adjugate twins, the lavas and the rashas, right, sets into the Illyrian chambers of the spirit body, Luma Eterna, opening the Luma Eterna Navajo core elemental flows, which are the Navajo flows are the ones that are shaped like eights, or the infinity-shaped ones. All right, but this is in the Luma Eterna level of the spirit body. All right, flows between the Luma Eterna, the Hall of Records 8 cells, the Akashic Akushik record first cells, the Rasha dark matter body, and the inner and outer light bodies. The Rosetta flows, 9 Kundalini flows, they form the 9 Kundalini flows, enter the Illyrian chambers. The domain spirit bodies, they're the smaller ones, right? The domain spirit bodies and seed atom suns all birth with the cosmic Rosetta sun, and the Rosetta flows open into the Illyrian chambers, cosmic and domain levels, creating the core lava flows and the 9 Rosetta currents combined to form the core cosmic Hare Krishna line in all of the domains and cosmic Illyrian chambers. So this puts everything online at this point with literally the cosmic matrix, with the cosmic time matrix and the living body of God Source. All right, now, day 10. That was simple enough. Day 10, Eridanus atomic hydrolase flows. Okay, this is where the unisuns are created. The domain bodies phase into the cosmic Hare Krishna body. So the domain bodies pull in. Those little domain bodies coming out, they actually pull in to the center point, into the Hare Krishna center body. Okay, so they pull into the Hare Krishna body, Luma Eterna. Okay, and they pull in to the Luma Eterna through probably the Dali Luma doorway that we talked about a while back, and birth out with the cosmic unisun cluster. Okay, and this actually forms, activates level 12 of the 15 zillizic layers in the entire huge cosmic body, and we'll see that in a little while too. Opening the 12 cosmic Lumer Adana currents into the cosmic and domain Illyrian chambers, merging the core lava and Rosetta flows with the spirit body currents of the Lumer Adana. Okay, the elemental current fission and fusion begins at the core of the cosmic Rasha prana seed, forming the 144 base elemental currents of Eridanus atomic matter, and releasing the atomic Eridanus currents into the light body for matter accretion. I was going, oh no, this is going to, oh no. I'm trying to get done what I knew was my sequence that I wanted to get done, right? Forget that. Because this is where it just went and got very, very, it'll take me probably 6 months to wrap my head around this, where I won't have to read these. Okay. Now, the atomic, this is like, oh, by the way, star, right? Note, footnote, half a page footnote. Atomic elemental currents are Eridanus adjugate spirit currents that form the base accretion templates of matter forms, the Eridanus templates, or foils. Light body spark currents of the Yucatharista outer light body accrete upon and form a crystalline membrane over the atomic Eridanus armature foil. So this is something literally that this is like frozen matter or light from the light body, sparks from the light body forms this. But underneath that, there's actually the living Eridanus level that is considered the atomic level. That is the core of the atomic level. Now, the Ettore matter Eridanus currents, now that would be the ones that are our Eridanus, remember, is the spirit body of our adjugate, right? So the Ettore matter Eridanus currents are called the Akashic currents and flow from the Akashic record Adore first cell. Adore matter Eridanus currents are called the Akushik currents and flow into Adore matter from the Akushik record first cell. Okay. In the manifestatory system, natural, if it's working naturally, natural axiotonal lines run, or are supposed to run, the Akashic currents from the Illyrian chambers and Akashic record, forming the organic Akashic body, Ettore matter foil. Natural meridian lines, which are the positive lines, run the Ettore light body currents, the Rosetta currents, from the Illyrian chambers, and the Unisei Rosetta cluster, forming the Ettore crystallized light skin membrane over the Akashic body, Iridanus Jalesic foil. Now, the Iridanus atomic adjugate spirit currents are hydrolase currents. All right, so this substance is referred to as hydrolase. They haven't gotten into what quantum exactly it carries, all that stuff, but I do know it's a part prana-based, if not all prana-based type of energy, as opposed to a mana-based type of energy or an ire-based type of energy. I think it has part ire and part prana. And somewhere, I have scribbled charts that just started that for a couple workshops back, but not in this context, so, but meaning the same thing. So this is a specific type of energy. But the Iridanus atomic currents are hydrolase. So this substance is called hydrolase. Hydrolase. Now this gets even stranger. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. All right. Okay, we're still on day 9, right? Yeah. I will go through these bits. So the Iridanus currents start with whatever it was I just read, right? On day 9. Right? This is where I was getting totally burnt out and lost on. This was really hard to translate. Some of this information, I had like 20 different sticky papers all over the place with notes, and this point's here and that point's there. No, it goes that way. No, that's called this. So it's really, sometimes, once it's down, it looks a lot easier. But when you get something like this that's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you got partial sentences and partial pictures, and you don't know what goes first and that kind of stuff, it's really exhausting to try to put them together, but eventually we get there. Now, this is just showing the Rosetta cluster, okay, and the Unisei, all right, which is the same structure as a smaller Unisei would be, and it's showing the 9 layers of the Rosetta cluster. Those 9 layers are formed from those 9 different sets of cell structures that birth, from the taran to the taran to the dyad to the myad to the monad to the amareia to the adon to the edon to the aton. All right, they are the 9, and they form the core currents, and then you have the currents coming from the Unisei. All right. Now these open up and they form what's called the Hara lines. It's actually the Hare Krista line that opens directly into the whole core structure of the Akashic record and the Akashic record and the halls and those kind of things, and right into creation point in the spirit body. So it's linking the light body through the Rasha body to the spirit body directly, so the flows can begin. This is just showing one Hare line, or Hara line, Hare Krista line. There would, of course, be 12 of those. They would run the Illyrian chambers. So they would be the core currents in the Illyrian chambers. Next one, please. To look at this a bit more in color. And you can thank Sue Clemson for these. She did a beautiful job with these. This is the structure of the Unisei with the flames, the same structure of the Unisei with its core flames. And its core flames and its inner flames and all of that. So these are spheres, living spheres of energy. Next one, please. And this is showing them with more of their flows. All right. When you have the crystal spirals running and they're making the little flows in between with also the larger ones, all of this are part of the these are part of the natural structures of both the domain sets, the little ones, but also the larger cosmic structure as well. And they're absolutely beautiful. When you start to see some of these things and really experience them, where you can hear the light sing and you can see it inside of your head and you can feel it around you, it's just an amazing new world. And you get it's like really, when you get in there, if you could get a meditation that would get you there and keep you there, most people would not come back. And that wouldn't be healthy, because the idea is to try to get your body there too, right? But these are the states we would go into, and actually our fields would become small versions of these. As we move through the natural stargate structures, if we move through a spanner gate, we would go into what's called a Christ star state in order to pass from one reality space to another through the Christic passages, and these things would activate within ourselves and within our bodies. We would turn into liquid light in the center someplace there, and we would be floating around in beautiful flames. Next one. So this is just showing you the Rosetta cluster here and the currents that come off of that. And then the unisun is, in the larger structure of it is the unisay is around it. There's still more structures that come out. Next one, please. And more words eventually to read. This is showing you proportions. Yeah, stark contrast, isn't it? You kind of go, oh, back to that again. Right. This is just showing you the proportions, right, on the rotational expansion of each level of the Rosetta cluster, which is the one that starts with the tar and goes all the way up to the tar and the dia, the maya, the monad, the amareya, the adon, the edon, the aton, right? Aton would be here, right? It also started to put in some more information. We're still on day 9 with the cosmic unisay Rosetta sun births. They refer to the unisay as the Rosetta sun, all right? And that would be, unisay is here. Now, if we look at this, we'll notice that we've also got L's, L numbers. And if you look at the size of this, it's actually it's 12 layers up to there of a Jalesic, 15 Jalesic template. So the layers correspond, the Jalesic layers of the Rasha body and also the Jalesic layers or the base shield planes of the light bodies correspond directly to, to the structures of the Rosetta. So this is where they wanted us to start to understand things, to start to look a little bit at the rings and the spans that correspond with the different layers, because there's some fascinating things that start to happen, and there are things that are in certain areas here that are referred to as the Rishite suns that are going to be activating within the Aquafarian shield, and we have the ability to bring that activation to ourselves if we want to expedite the healing and to purge the things that we'll talk about later that are a mess, that are in our fields thanks to the environmental influences. So this is just showing you that all of these things do fit together proportionately and structurally. This also means that there is a structure where you would put the Illumeridana, the big cosmic structure. There's a relationship of proportion directly between this. This goes up to layer 12, all right, like Jalesic layer 12. So there would still be 13, 14, and 15, way past the edge of the page up there. And the Unisun is the next one out. This one hasn't been born yet. I think that's a day 10er. All right, so we're on day 9, and that's where the Unisay had born. Now remember, the spirit body, which is bigger, had birthed before. It had birthed at the same time the Tarn was birthed. So this is it actually filling out its light structure and turning on the currents between the light body and the spirit body and the Rasha body. Next one, please. This is where we start to see where density level Akashic records and such pop up. This is where I was thinking, I never had a chance to even finish that diagram. Unfortunately, they hadn't gone into what happens after the Akushite cycle. Because remember, that was like Akushite cycle was trimester 2 of the Sita cycle. That took forever. The amount of graphology that was involved with the eye of God and all of those quantum things, all of that structure, that took many, many diagrams. And I was so relieved that when they got to, it was the Rushite structure was next, and that just showed 4 embedded Rushites. Fine. Perfect. That was easy. 1 page. Thank you. Then it got to the Rishite structure. And, they started kind of showing this. Now, there are sets of cells in here, but what they want us mostly to focus on now are there a set of core cells. And this is the point where they form. They form at the day 10 point, I believe. The next one explains more of that. But this was what we showed when we got to trimester 4 of the Sita cycle that simply was referred to as the Rishite. All right? The Rishite is the thing that forms in the last trimester of the Sita cycle. And there's the 15 Jalesic layer template in here, right? The 15 rings and their spans. And there's something that forms here, a certain set of cells, and these are the sun cells. These are the Rishite sun cells. And one forms down here at what would be the 0.5 span, one at the 3.5 span, one at the 6.5 span, one at the 9.5 span, which is here, and one at the 15.5 span, and one more that's out here around it. I mean, this is where you're starting to get to the end of the size of the spirit body, of the Illuminadana spirit body. And what's outside of that is what is called the Orion field. And that is the immediate ambient field in source consciousness field, the emanation from the light structure, that enlightened spirit structure that grew in source field. It emanates a bit, but you are going into source consciousness field at that point, like the undifferentiated portion of source consciousness field. So this is also where, when we talked about Alons, Shalons, and Kalons phasing in the Rasha chambers and in the Illyrian chambers, we have Orons out here that also phase and create quantum relationships with what is inside of the creation structure. So they wanted us to see for a moment this mess, this messy graph, just so we would see where those 0.5 things are. Just ignore that one. Right, see it's 9.5, 6.5. And we'll see this a little bit more. We're going to learn a bit more about this, because this has to do with what is happening in the planetary grids today, what is happening in the Aquiferian shield today, that gives us an opportunity to really give ourselves a jump start as far as the healing that we've talked about and getting back the ascension codes. Next one, please. Here we go. Okay. The 7 sons of Rishate. The Rishaic density memory matrix. So now we had a cosmic memory matrix before that was forming with the Akashic matrix, the Akashic, the Akashic first cell and the Akashic first cell, and then the 8-cell clusters, or the Hall chambers. Now, how these form is when the Akashic and the Akashic, or the Atori and the Adori sides of those first cell and 8-cell structures open to each other. All right, they form a unified structure. And it is through this that a set of what they refer to as the density suns. All right, these are actually barriers that form within certain levels, within the density levels of the cosmic Jaleesic template, and also within the domains that separate the domains, that create electromagnetic barriers between the domains that can be opened and closed. And they open when a being is going through an Adashi cycle or going back into spirit. And they're naturally supposed to be parts. There's a part of them that were called the Kusha orbs, or the Kusha crystals, and there's another part that would be called the Kasha crystals. And when you put them together, they form these crystalline Jaleesic orbs that are a natural part of the light body and Rasha body structures. So I'll take it from here, I'll just read it. Okay, now what? The Rishaic density memory matrix, the 7 sons of Rishate, these are 7 hydrogelesic crystalline bodies of Iridanus, of the Illumiradana spirit body Rishate cluster, which was that cluster we just saw before. All right? 15 days of first creation, days 10 through 15. Birth of the cosmic Rishate density memory matrix, the Rishaic record, and the halls of Rishate. And it is the halls of Rishate that we are going to be able to access, that they didn't think that was going to happen this soon. So that it's kind of exciting. And hopefully by the time I read this, and maybe it makes more sense to me the second time around, I will be able to share enthusiasm with you about why that's so important. I know it is, or they wouldn't have put another workshop in the middle of the workshop. But boy, you're getting state-of-the-art stuff. I mean, it's so good, I don't even know it yet. Yeah. Okay, so we have the cosmic halls of records, the Akashate Adore and the Akushate Atori 8 cells, and the Akashic Adore and Akashic Atori records, the Akasha and Akusha first cells, progressively activate, merging the Iridanus atomic adjugate spirit hydrolase currents. So they're merging the 2 Iridanus currents, right? Progressively birthing the 7 hydrogelesic hydroplasm liquid light Rishate sun cells. So this is what they're made out of. It's considered they're hydrogelesic, and which is a type of that gelesic radiation stuff that the big gelesic template is made out of, is a particular type called hydros. And I think hydros shows up on the matter chart that we saw a while back that showed some of the states of matter, and I can't remember where it was. It might have been one of the primary ones, but I don't have all those memorized yet. But it is hydros, and that is what is known as hydroplasm. There's different types of plasm, plasm or plasma. There's thermoplasm, there's hydroplasm, there's ectoplasm, there's endoplasm, and there's plasma, as we know in density 1 down here. All right. So this would be a density 4 liquid light. And it's the same stuff we're running, actually, when we're doing Maharic Shield and that kind of stuff. It were the avatar frequencies or the D12 level frequencies. But this is not just the frequencies of this side, D12. These are the frequencies that are the spirit body frequencies of the Adore side. So it is the iridonis frequencies that go through the core. So these are like we're running hub frequencies, or the core domain frequencies. So progressively birth, the hydrogelesic hydros cells, the Richete sun cells of the cosmic Richete, the Richete body, forming the cosmic Richaic density memory matrix and 7 crystalline sun density seals. Yep, you're right. Celestaline. That is the word celestaline. Celestaline they talked about a while back, and we have some decent... I didn't know they were even going to bring that up, or I would have tried to dig out wherever that halfway decent article on what celestaline was. There was a full text bit on describing what it was, and they always had described it as a transient element that occurred in the body when the body was getting ready for, to be able to turn to liquid light, to go through gate passage. And it leaves a powdered residue that they used to call either white powder gold or blue powder gold in Egyptian times. And it used to be a coveted substance because those who couldn't go through stargates could actually stimulate a bit of extra DNA activation in themselves to get themselves through gates they wouldn't otherwise be able to go through by using this substance artificially. And it wasn't supposed to be that way. They weren't supposed to do that. That was not a good thing to do. There's still people who are trying to produce white powder gold out here, and you can find this stuff on the nets and stuff. It's a chemical thing. But organically, it is a powdery residue that forms from this natural occurring stuff called celestaline. And celestaline has to do with, no matter what two sets of adjugates you bring together, elemental adjugates, if you bring together their 2 iridonis bodies, and then which are the 2 spirit bodies, and they will draw in the 2 matter or manifest bodies. So you get the 4 bodies together, the full set of 2, from each vector, the Adore and the Torah side. They pull together, and no matter what they are, they will turn to celestaline. All right, they will transmute to that element, celestaline. And that is part of the process of having the elements in the atomic structure temporarily turn into liquid light so you can move places and go through gates. And it has to do with DNA. I remember the article that we had a while back had been about DNA and what how celestaline activated within the hydrogen bonds in the DNA and that kind of thing. So, anyway, the 7 celestaline sun density seals, we call them C seals for celestaline. These are time-locked vector seals between time cycles of the domains and the cosmic body. So these actually form at this space, the space between day 10 and day 15 of the creation cycle. But there are huge ones out there that are part of the cosmic body, that is already there, and there are ones in our own fields. And we have one at if you looked at the 15 gelesic layers, which we will in a minute, and looked at the spans in between the rings, right? If you have a number 1 and a number 2, the 1.5 span would be between those. If you have the number 1 and go below it toward the center point, you have 0.5 span. So there's 1. The C1, or the seal or sun 1, is at 0.5 span, C2 at 3.5, C3 at 6.5, C4 at 9.5, C5 at 12.5, C6 at 15.5, and C7 is in the Urea field, all the way out around past where the Lumeridana stops, and you enter source consciousness field directly. Now, there's a lot more we're going to be learning about the seals, but for now, these names mean they correspond with the time cycles that a long time ago they mentioned that have to do with the densities going upward. So they plug into the time cycles, which plugs into bringing in the frequencies of the portions of your light body identity, say like your soul, your oversoul, your avatar, and your rishi levels of consciousness. So all of those are connected to the old things that we were learning before when we didn't have nearly the sophistication of this material. There is a mutation at this one, this one, this one, and this one, all the way up to here, because of the planetary, solar, and galactic issues that are taking place as environmental influences in the system that we are in. And we are going to, because there is an activation of the halls of Rishite that is occurring, we will be able to move our imprint not just into the local smaller halls of records, the Akashic record. We will be able to go in to the one that occurs when the Akashic and the Akushik are put together, to the core one, which means we will be able to, at this point, we'll be able to do a projection with not just the Rasha body, but the Rasha body and the Iridanis body into the Dalai Lama point. So we're going to go through the Dalai Lama door and out into the structures of the Lumera Adana body, or the particular part of it that is referred to it as the Rishite clusters, which are like large halls, large cells, circular halls. So that is where the journey is going to go. We are going to go there, or we're being invited. We don't have to, but we're being invited so that we may use the frequencies that are there to clear the distortions that are in the first 4 layers of these within our own bodies, because they right now block us from being able to do starfire, first of all, or even slide, but they also plug us into a false memory matrix that is called the Prosiac memory matrix, which we'll see about this afternoon. We'll see what that looks like and what its forms like. This has to do with the Blue Madoom, and it's actually, well, I won't go there yet. We'll let you see the pictures on that one. But these particular things are an extremely important part of our anatomy, of our spiritual body anatomy and of our light body anatomy. They're also very intimate too, because they will show in the rings of the eyes eventually when you have certain activation levels. So these are the ones that a while back that we showed how certain activation levels of the Rasha bodies would begin to show in the eyes as certain rings that would appear or flash in for a little bit. They won't just sit there and hang unless you're getting ready to like really turn to liquid light. Then you'll get a really pretty turquoise ring, pale turquoise ring, aquiline sun ring around the space between the whites of your eyes and where your iris is. And there's another one inside of that. I believe that one is an indigo blue ring that's between the pupil and the iris. And eventually there would be colors coming out of the pupil. There should be now. There are times when you may get little bursts of feeling eye burning, as if frequency is flying out your eyes. Well, it is. It's supposed to. Remember, we have the eye of God structure in our head. When we start to begin to activate naturally and function naturally, we start to activate those core currents, the lavas that would come out of our eyes, the eyes of love, the lavas and those kind of things. So the structures that you'll see now in relation to cosmic structure also apply to planetary and solar structure and galaxy structures. They also apply to your personal bodies, right down to your very eyes. So it's kind of neat. And other parts, I'm sure, but they haven't told me about those yet. So I'm going to show you where these fit. We simply have the names of them. That's called Andonk, all right? These are connected to, all right, this one, they refer to the cosmic and planetary Rale Yuga sun cells. They're called the Etan suns, and the Amaraya Akasha Etan suns. And these correspond to cosmic density 1, but they're also the ones that control all the density 1 layers. Right? So in the smaller domains as well. Then you would have the density 2, which are considered the solar level, are the Andonk seals. They're called they correspond to the Ale Yuga sun cells, or the Adan suns. You have the density 3 ones that are the galactic level, and this is ones we're having big problems with that we'll see this afternoon. These are called the Unisai seals. They are the Shale Yuga sun cells, the Edan suns, and again, this is the middle domain, right? This is the core domain, this is the inner domain, this is the middle domain. These are the density 4 universal Veka Aran seals, All right, so these are Vecca level seals. We've gone from the cosmic connection to planetary, then up to solar, up to galactic, up to Vecca level. These are the Kali Yuga sun cell radon suns, and we are in the Kali Yuga now because we're in the outer domain. And this is the next one. This one is actually all right. This is the density 5 universal Eka Brno seals, the Adashi 1 sun cell Vedana suns. So there is a set of these that go with each of the densities, and then once we get through the Kali Yuga, they would naturally open and activate the frequencies of the Adashi 1 cycle in our bodies, then the Adashi 2 cycle in our bodies, then the Adashi 3 cycle in our bodies. What these do is when with the birth of the spirit body and the light body, to create the space-time domains where evolution can be experienced through time in a linear fashion. These suns are created and they seal the densities, but they are meant to at a certain point, and that point is supposed to be here at the end of the Kali Yuga. All of these before it are supposed to progressively open, bring all of the core currents in from those layers before, and that gives the being or solar system enough quantum to make the Adashi turn around and pick up all the frequencies where they would have a frequency co-resonant with the density 5 Adashi 1 cycle. So it's a natural process of evolution. The opening of these seals is supposed to be a natural part of what we do when we evolve. Once we finish a Kali Yuga, we're supposed to get that quantum rush with all the frequencies turning on and be able to go into what is called a Christ star state by entering the Kalihara state, where we do the adjugate bond and celestial wave and all that, and literally turn into a hydrogelezic liquid light stuff, and go into our Christ star, what's called the Christ star capsule that we'll see a little bit later. So these are a natural part of the structures that form at this stage. So you have at the end of day 10 is number 1, 11 is number 2, day 12 is number 3, day 13 is number 4, day 15 is number 5, 14 is number 5, day 15 is number 6, and day 15 and the end of it is the density 7 one, the one that's outside around that connects to around the Illumeradana and directly into source field. All right, and this was just explaining that the Rishaic record is the cosmic density memory matrix first cell, and it's formed from the merged Adore Akashic and Attore Akushic record first cells. And then the halls of Rishate that we're going to be journeying to are the merged Ettore and Adore 8-cell clusters. They open to the cosmic Rishate clusters of the Illumer Adora, which means they open to all of the vectors, right? The entire structure of the Illumer Adora that has all of the different vectors, the 12 on this side and 12 on the Adore side, it opens to all of those, which means you can make time shift. You go into that state, you can go into any space-time system from there. So ultimately, once you are Starfire able, you could actually do that. But the first thing that we need to do is to expedite the healing of the mutation that this planet and the solar system have provided our bodies with. Because right now we can't do those things that are a natural part of the evolution structure. Next one, please. Am I doing it? They said to let me know before or after. Okay. Yeah, that would be better to do that. Okay. Yeah, what we're going to do is we have about 8 more Mylars left in this set. We're going to do these, and even if it's a little bit early from the pushed back lunchtime, because the beloveds are going to let me know whether before lunch or after lunch was going to be the best time to run the first part of the journey, because the first part of the journey is the journey. And then there's another part later that has to do with using the tones that will begin to work with the encryption of the halls once the journey is complete and certain things take place in it. And I'm getting that they're not ready yet. It's just not ready. It's not the time. The wave isn't coming. We're waiting for the wave. There's a certain wave of frequency that will come into the Aquafarian shield on Earth that will allow us to do this journey. And they weren't sure if it would be before the lunch period or after, but it appears so far it's going to be after.
So they'll be given the 2 sheets of the tones on their way out tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was just letting us know that you'll be given the 2 sheets of the tones that go with the second part of that. Do they go the second part or the first? I can't remember. I told you. Were they first or second? I thought so. That's right. Okay. Yeah, there are two sheets of tones. One are the tones of the Jeshua code, and the other, which you'll find out what they correspond to once we go through the afternoon session that has to do with the M31 galaxy and things, which is Andromeda. But anyway, this is very messy, but it was the best I could do on short notice because all of this information becoming a part of this program was short notice. Right? This is showing you on the... Let me move that up a little bit, honey, please. Yeah, up. Thank you. Yeah. This, again, is the 15 Jaleesic rings and spans template, which applies to both your Rasha body and to your base shield of your light body structure. And, of course, you would have 4 embedded layers of them. They're just showing one of them. It implies... Are you guys going without me? You must be going. So what you see on one level implies there would be 4 layers of this. So yeah, if they're on one 15 Jaleesic template, you would find them on each of the 4 embedded ones as well. So it would be layers on each. It would also imply that there would be 1 on each dimensional layer, on D1, D2, D3, and in the the density level, and also going upwards. So this is just showing you where these suns, these crystalline, whatever they call them, Jaleesic hydros suns, celestialine suns, there would be 1 way down here in the core at the 0.5 layer, which you have ring 1. You can't even see it on here, but ring 1. And inside of that, you have where the prana seed is, and the core gates, the 13, 14, and 15 core gates, the etaurs, as they're called. And then you would have ring 1 around them, and there's a barrier between that, and that would be called the 0.5 span. And the 0.5 span is where the first one, C1, is, then celestialine sun 1. The second one is at 3.5. The next one, and that's the density 2 one, the 6.5 one, which corresponds to density 3, is here, 6.5, C3. The 9.5, which is the universal Vecca density 4, level 1, is here, corresponds to here. And where we are actually is we are in the outer domains. Is also showing you where the domains correspond to this. And we are in the outer domain that corresponds to 10, the rings 10, 11, and 12. So we're in the outer domains here. Is the 9.5 seal between the middle domains, and which are the Edens, and the outer domains, radons. So that's where the 4th one is, C4. C5 is over here, and these are the ones from here down are where there are mutations, how the false memory matrix is being held in place, the Procyon matrix, by the bloom of doom and all it's connected to that we'll see this afternoon. And we finally have an opportunity to heal this. And we've been progressively working at pieces. We just did something called releasing of the 666 seed atom thing in the Tribe 8 class. And I think that had to be done before any of this could be done. And I think the beloveds were surprised that certain things activated in the shield that quickly, because it was only last weekend that we just began those shield activations. And it's a good thing that the sooner the better as far as getting the frequencies in, because it makes us it protects us from the activation levels of the Procyon matrix, and that is progressively activating as well. So we have the 12.5 universal Eka level 1 that corresponds with the Dashi 1. These are actually, they serve as almost like the seed crystals for the next layer up that emerges from them, right? So if this was our density 4 one, the outer domain 1, the density 4 outer domain emerged from it, right? And this is the memory matrix for density 5, and that's the Adashi 1 cycle, and the Adashi 1 body emerges from it. So these connect to the layers of our body. And when the natural process that if you're going to do an Adashi turnaround would be simply to open up all the currents, all the core lavas, and that's all the little domain bodies, open them all the way up back to the center body and the Kalihara, and bring all the frequencies of the lavas and all of the flows on, and that would give you the quantum enough to expand into this state. And as each time you activated one of the sets of currents coming from where you were before, because these would represent, if you're out here, These currents represent where you were before in order to have gotten here. All right? So there are parts of you that would be behind you, and these parts would be the parts that are in your future. They haven't gone yet, but they're really an energy signature of you, or under natural circumstances, there would be an energy signature of you in each of those places. And you would have your energy signature in the cosmic body. But because of the mutations here, they've said that we actually don't have, the Amente races do not have their energy imprint in the cosmic level of the halls, the halls of Rishite, because of the blocking and the harnessing of our natural energies that occur here that happens in the fetal body that we'll talk about later. But there's a mutation that happens in the fetal body that prevents us from going through. The spirit body still grows, but the physical body cannot connect to it. So the physical body encryption is actually not in the memory records where it should be. And that's quite a hijack. It's actually plugged into an artificial memory matrix that is referred to as the Prosiac memory matrix. And by the time we get done this afternoon with the Prosiac stuff, you'll discover that it's basically, you could refer to the whole thing that has to do with the bloom of doom and all of that as the curse of Yahweh. Because the Yahweh matrix is a fallen matrix in the Wisa deck system that is connected to the center of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. It didn't cause the fall of it. Well, it helped, but it wasn't how the fall started, how the black hole at the center of the Milky Way did not start that way, but it was intercepted through wormhole technology. And that is literally what has helped to finalize the fall of this system. So there are certain things they're going to talk about on larger levels, I think, about when we get into those diagrams this afternoon. But for now, the good news is we're going to be able to, for the first time, ride a certain wave that's going to be releasing sometime earlier as opposed to later. It's not going to be like the final end thing that we do. It's going to be more like as soon as we get back from break type thing. But we're going to go through a journey to the halls of Rishite. What this looks like, I have no idea. They haven't taken me there yet. I don't know what it looks like. Right? I'll get there with you. We'll all go together. But what it will do is, first of all, put the imprint of ourselves as we are into the natural memory matrix, which will allow, and we're doing it through the iridanis, so there's something there that will allow the natural divine blueprint, like the closest one that we have from wherever we came, that it was still good, which may have to do with the Edon levels, where it will put back the natural imprint of our bodies and connect that to our bodies here somehow to clear these mutations out of our bodies. So I'm just learning this too, but this is what they've explained to me, why they wanted you to understand about the larger structures, about what happens in the creation sequence between days 10 through 15, because it's those particular structures that are going to be activating, and that there's going to be more. They're going to tell me over the lunch break, I think. There's going to be more that has to do, this has to do too with the Jeshua code, and with the 7 sons of the 7 sons, and something to do with Amsterdam that they still didn't tell me yet. But I'm sure they will before we leave. Like, why here? Why are we doing this here? What is it connected to? Right? We know it's not a regular Stargate. Right? Because they would have listed it already. So what we're doing is clearing these so we can begin the processes of naturally turning on all of the currents coming up. And it's really kind of neat because, seriously, these currents are what have been behind you. You've come out. If you think of those, that kind of little chain of little balls, the little domain balls that come out inside the larger structures of the Kalihara bodies and things, that there's literally, you have a piece of self in each one of those. So you've got, so if you're in the Edon level, which is the middle level, you'd have your outer one in front of you, and your Adashi is still in front of you as the future you would be moving into in your hologram. But you would have your inner one and your core one behind you. So these are literally, and this is the stuff that you can see in the eyes, where if you activate this band, for instance, right, this is where you get the parts that are here, the Adashi cycles, would represent the whites of the eyes. The frequencies correspond to the whites of the eyes. This area, where you are now, corresponds to the iris. And this would be a band of aquiline, bluey-green color that would activate between the whites of the eyes and the iris. All right, when you come here, where you have been is the pupil, would show in the pupil. And you would have the currents naturally of here and here and here activating if you had them all opened, if you were a full, going into Adashi ascension and your body was activating. But right now they are all black because those are all turned off because of the mutation. So there's supposed to be natural lava currents coming up through. They're supposed to be the natural currents from the edons coming through and showing through our eyes. But what we have here is blackness because they are turned off. And there would be still a darkness, like a dark lens, because that has something to do with just naturally being able to see in general. But there would be flickering, like rainbow colors moving through the pupils of eyes. And at the center point, when you release this seal here, as you were getting ready to open all of them, you would see all these bands activate in the eyes. It's like you're getting ready to do Stargate, right? And your body is able to do it. You would see all of those do their color, because they each have a specific color. This one, I believe, is I'd have to look down the little chart that I can't read in the corner. I think this is the indigo one. It's like an indigo band. And there's another one down here. I can't remember what color it is, but eventually they'll have this information out more clearly. But once you got down here, there'd be like a white spark, and it would definitely have stars, like a star in your eye, and it'd look like you'd have stars in your eyes. You'd also see that there are things that come here. I have another chart later that I can show you that will show what lines or what Illyrian chamber lines you actually have open, and that's where you get the starburst around the pupil, and you would be able to read that too. So it's also kind of interesting. It's like, don't worry about starting an iridology course on this, because there's a built-in screening where, because the eyes are such literally keys to the soul and beyond, that you would not be able to read anyone's but your own. And that protects you, and it protects others. If you think you're seeing stuff in others' eyes, it will only be your own projection. So that can be tricky too. It's like, don't even bother going looking for dark avatars, because I'm sure you can see some nasty things there that don't belong there, as far as what the rings are doing and what colors they might be. Or are you just seeing something in your own eyes reflecting back? So it's not something that we can start an iridology program on. It's like, who is ascending yet? Are you going yet? No. But you can look in the mirror, however, but only alone, because we've already always said, okay, well, how about if we stand next to each other in the mirror? Can I see yours and you see mine? No. The Adashi levels of your own self do not allow that. There are veils that do not allow your most personal private parts to be seen, and they're more private than running down the street naked. Okay? Right? So the natural process of ascending or going out through the yuga cycles into Akashi expansion, and then making the turnaround into Adashi going home cycles would be literally in the eyes. It's literally in the field. It would be in your natural Jaleesic radiation field and in your smaller Rasha body inside of you. And it is the process of progressively bringing the spirit body frequencies back into the light body frequencies, progressively transmuting their atomic matter base into celesteline, and progressively changing from solid matter into liquid light form. And then you can move through the changes, and then you can decide where you want to go and what density you're going to come back in. So you can visit time vectors, you become a time hopper, or whatever you want to call it. Some people like ascended master, those kind of things. But this is the real process of ascension, and there's nobody on this planet that's teaching it. And I was one of the saddest people to find that out, because I was really hoping and praying somebody else had the big stuff. You know what I mean? And all I've ended up doing is getting people in the New Age movement who don't rather upset with us. Because we've shown the doom, the doom bloom, the bloom of doom, and the daisy of death, and those kind of things, and showed how they are the antithesis to the natural Christ evolution. We showed the difference between Christic and anti-Christic, and that upset a lot of apple carts as far as FAs go, but not enough to bother. They would have killed us by now probably, but we're still standing so far. This is the natural process of turning on these frequencies of the Lumiridana in your body. And this is interesting too. There's a connection directly to your chakra system, to the chakras. What your chakras are supposed to be running, if I can get over to this side. Yeah, thank you. What your chakra system is supposed to be running are these frequencies this way. This is where your body, as an outer domain person, right? So you're in the outer domains, which correspond to the 10, 11, and 12 Jaleesic layers of the Rasha bodies, and also the light body base shield. these frequencies, where you are, would be running through chakras 5, 6, and 7. 5 is the one at the throat, 6 is the third eye, and 7 is in the pineal. The ones that correspond, that are bringing the frequencies in from the future, would correspond to chakras 8, which is the one that comes through the head and comes down out here. 9, which comes through the other way. You have 8 comes down at an angle through the pineal this way and comes out here. And the other one, 9, comes down this way through the pineal and out the back of the head. And they're all brain activation ones, those ones that come through the pineal. All right, so 8, 9, and 10, which is above the head, that they would all correspond to the Adashi 1 cycle. Then you'd have 8, 9, and 10. You have 11, 12, 13, 14 going up. That would all correspond to the other Adashi cycle levels. And then going downward, where we got to 7, 6, and 5, to here is where you are, right? Where you were, your Edonic level frequencies should be processing through chakra 4, the heart chakra, chakra 3 in the solar plexus, and chakra 2, which is the sacral chakra, and chakra 1, the base chakra, which would actually correspond to the Adon levels. So these should be the frequencies that are running through your chakras. It's not what's happening in the bodies right now because of the mutation, because they've actually made barriers where these natural where the natural sun would be, the density barriers would be. They've blocked them in reverse currents and turned just these back on themselves. There's literally cut us in half as far as frequency running ability, and turned the currents in on themselves and formed what is called the unnatural yin-yang flows that literally form a tube torus of convoluted energy that turns in on itself continually. In and around our bodies. The same kind of field is in and around our planet. The same type of field is in and around our galaxy. And that is part of the problem that we'll talk about in this afternoon when we get back from our break. What's the next one, please? Go what? 20 minutes, okay. Oh dear. Here we go again. Did we read this one yet? We didn't, did we? Nope. Okay. Here's more of the 7 sons of Rishite and hydrolase conversion. Here we go. I think I'm going to sit down for this one so I can look up at it and just read it carefully. Plus my back's giving out. Ouch. Okay. The Rishaic density memory matrix. 7 hydrogelesic crystalline bodies of Iridanus, of the Illumiradana spirit body Rishite cluster. Yes, we're back there again. Okay. Now, I'm going to just start, I think. All right. Hydrolase conversion. This was a note, one of those. Oh, yeah, by the way, with the little star, that usually means, footnote, side note, whatever. These usually end up scribbled around margins and stuff, and they said, just put it on another paper. That's why we had the title of the other thing, and this came in first before the other chart. So they said, just put it on another paper instead of writing around the margins and then, like the mess I usually take down first. Hydrolase conversion. Note, when any elemental... I didn't read this part yet, did I? I can't tell from one or the other at this point. No, I didn't. Okay. All right. When any elemental atomic iridanus current or element combines with its adjugate twin, iridanus current or element, the two hydrolase iridanus atomic gelesic currents merge and transmute into hydrogelesic hydroplasm liquid light current. So when you bring the two iridanus currents together, they become hydroplasm liquid light. Whatever base elements the atomic iridanus currents are composed of, it doesn't matter what pair they are, will co-join with its adjugate twin, bringing the crystalline light skin matter membrane, that's like the materialized surface from the light body sparks that are over the iridanus template that is underneath, that is the natural atomic structure, right? So the iridanus atomic frozen light materialized elemental skin will merge with the Dali Luma door and Eye of Allure, within the core of the Akashic and Akushic record first cells, merging the Atori and the Adori first cells into one Rishaic record eternal cell called the Christ star. Upon formation / activation of the Christ star Rishaic sun cell, the iridanus hydrolase currents merge with the Atori and Adori light body, and remember these are the iridanus currents, or the adjugate spirit currents, merge with the Atori and Adori light body currents, converting and transmuting to hydros. So the iridanus currents go from being hydrolase into a different type of substance called hydros, which is hydrogelesic liquid light, forming the transcendent element, celestaline, and releasing a celestaline wave through the 12 Illyrian chambers. The Adori and Atori Hall of Records 8 cells merge at release of the celestaline wave, opening the Rishate Halls of Records within the cosmic Rishate body, and the hydrolase converted hydros liquid light celestaline hydroplasm matter form enters the Christ star state for starfire passage into the Adashi return cycles through the halls of Rishate. So, if we don't have our imprint, our encryption in the halls of Rishate, we aren't even capable of Adashi passage. So, that was not the original condition of our creation, and what they are going to allow us to do is they're going to take us in, because there is a wave releasing, and the halls are opening in the Andromeda shield, in the Aquiel matrix shield, and in the Aquiferian shield here. So they have the opportunity to bring us in. Those who want to do the projection journey, you're welcome to come. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but you're welcome to. Bring us in so we can first of all set our encryption in there. And then once it's in there and activated with the certain sound tones, then we will later bring it back, or just allow it to drift back in, because one way or another we'll get, like our encryption will come back. But it has to do with bringing the Rasha body and the Iridanus body into the journey. And we've only done the Rasha body journeys before. We've not really taken Iridanus flying anywhere. But we're going to take them in, and we're going to leave the Iridanus there, I think, bring the Rasha back. That's what they're trying to show me, actually, in pictures. And we're going to leave the Iridanus there for a while, so it imprints the divine, the perfect imprint. Because remember, the Iridanus currents, the spirit bodies, actually hold the perfect divine blueprint of whatever your form was and was intended to be. So it's going to put that imprint into the halls, and then it's going to bring something back to us. Like we'll bring our Rasha bodies back, but we're going to leave the Iridanus there. And then this is connected to what we're supposed to do later tonight too, for those who are staying. And you don't have to. It'll happen on its own, but if you want to expedite the process of the Iridanus coming back in and bringing whatever it is, we'll find out, the gift of Aquiel. Okay, here we go again. They've been talking about the gift of Aquiel for a long time, but they haven't exactly explained technically what that is. But it's coming back, I guess, from the halls of Rishate. Now, the thing tonight, you don't have to do that if you're trying to leave early, but if you want to, what it's meant to do is it will expedite the process of the Iridanus coming back in to running that exercise tonight after the main workshop is done. It will expedite the process of bringing the frequencies back into the body. So it'll just make the activations happen faster. But even if you can't stay, you're not really missing anything, because eventually it'll take a couple of weeks, but it will do that on its own anyway through the natural spiritual body processes. So whatever, if you're in a hurry and want to say, go for it, you can stay and do the extracurricular activity with erasing the Iridanus. But if not, you don't have to, so there's no obligation. So I just kind of let that run live on that one, just so, because they were letting me know, too, what we were going to be doing. So all of this has to do, too, with all these seals. The seals we've talked about are the seals that go with the time. the time cycles that we talked about a long time ago, the Taran, the Andang, the Unisai, the Arn, and the Brenno cycles. Those are the seals that literally separate all the time vectors, but not just on the light body level, but also within the Rasha body. So it allows for it's a jump time program, is what they just said, which means you basically get to kind of like slightly hyperspace. If you're doing it fully physically, that's exactly what you would do. You would be able to simply go into creation point, into the halls, and experience everything from the eternal now point, as Source does. And you would be able to choose which reality field you wanted to go play in. That kind of thing. For now, we've just got to get in there in the first place so we can begin the healing process that will bring that ability back to our atomic structure. So I'm just learning this with you, just so you know. Yeah, we know some of it, but this was new, this much of it. So they're just connected to these two. It's the same thing we've been talking about, for ages, but it was a lot simpler in those days when we just had one 15-dimensional matrix to deal with. And a soul and an oversoul and an avatar and a rishi. Anyway, next one, please. I think we're almost done with this set. All right. Through that process of our 10 to 15 days of creation, what we end up with is that point where we had, day 9 here, we had the Unisei formed. All right, this corresponds as a little version of what's happening here. So if you see here, it says L11, right? L11 is here. All right, that's what this is. So that is the Unisei in relation to the Lumera Adana, right? That one right here, L11. L12 is the Unisun cluster, right? That would be here. And it's also layer 12, Jaleesic layer 12. Then you have, this is where the Luma Eterna would be at the level 13, which would be here. I just didn't show it, but it's the other one that looks just like this, but smaller. Right? Then you have the Illumin Attore, and this is the 14 layer. Right? These are layers that are part of the natural 15 Jaleesic structure of the Illumeradana bodies, and these activate when you progressively activate the Illyrian chambers out to these levels. And we're just beginning the process of doing that. And there's the 15 layer one that is here. So the thing is where we showed all of the suns that are the sun seals that are in the specific layers 1 at 3.5. Then when we go down further, this is only level 5 here. No, that isn't day 7. This is day 5. Okay, and I think that's 8. That's level 8 or layer 8 or ring 8. That's ring 7. That's ring 6. That takes us to, that's the Amareus cell, the 5th one. That's the monad that would be at L6. Then we go further, going down in. This is where we're going into the first, the halls structure. And at the center of the halls, you have the record, like the Akashic record and the Akashic record. So these would be the hall structures in relation to that. If this is layer 11, okay, so this is layer 11, the halls start here. This is the size in relation to things. So these would be the natural Akushate and Akashate ones would start at layer 11, and those halls would run until you get to layer, what was that again? Just set it, layer, what are you? 7? Yeah, no, yeah, this is ring 8, and that's 7. I think that's 7. Let me make sure here. See, this is stuff I'm just learning too. All right, 7.5. This is 6.5 right there. So this one is 7.5. So that would be the 7.5 span, right? And that means, let's see, 7's here, 8's here, so 7.5 would be here. It runs the Amareya right there. And that is the inner part. That is the Akashic record and the Akushik record. That is the part that when they open and merge would turn into the Rishaic record or the Rishite record. And these, when they open, which means they would open in these areas, would become the halls of Rishite. And there would probably be twice as many of them. And they would open to all the vectors. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. Yep, they would open 12 of them. So they would open to each of the vectors. And If we vaguely remember by this time, the echo maps, not the echo maps, the vertical maps that we saw yesterday, and how some of these structures fit, how the geodesic layers fit into the planetary body structure. Well, if we remember, one simple thing is that wherever layer 9 is, then you have 9.5 span, and 9.5 span is always the crust. And what's under the crust, going down, is what's inside of the planet, and what's going up is up in the atmosphere. So if we look at this and see that right here, layer 11, the hulls literally run up in Earth's atmosphere. Here at layer 10 is the top of the thermosphere. So they literally run from here. Now 7 would be 7. That is the lower mantle. So from the lower mantle up through past the thermosphere, you would have the halls of Rishite opening. And they are literally spaces that once your bodies can physically go, they become physical domains with land masses and sky masses and all sorts of things. We experience physicality as a physical hologram here because of certain configurations of our body that were meant to experience it that way, but certain ones that are distorted. Once you remove those distortions, we will be able to do what the Adashi masters do, which is be able to move around wherever they'd like to, turn to hydrolase liquid light through the hydrolase conversion process, a part of which there's something called the solar symbiosis cycle is part of this, where the UV light that can be brought in to the body through the kalons in the skin actually help expedite this process of hydrolase conversion. And that's why a lot of there used to be some myths about people who used to just sit outside and breathe sun, and that's how they ate. Right? This is why it would allow the hydrolase conversion thing. This is what breatharians do. And it's not just visible light. All right? The UV light is what... there's lots of different types of UV spectrum. And it doesn't have to be just the bright sun shining. You can literally breathe at night too, and there are still forms of UV light that are released in the universe and in the atmosphere. So this is just beginning a process of returning us to what our original biology was. We were all breatharians. We were created as a breatharian race. We've adapted to the mutation in order to survive here long enough to get to this point in history where we could attempt the final reverse mutation. So we could become fully who we are and get the heck out of here and take as much of it with us as we could. You know, who says you can't take it with us? Sometimes you can, and we're going to work on it. At least now we know the principles of what that means to take it with you. So anyway, I think, is there any more in that series, or is that the last one? What are they? It's time for lunch. Okay. I was hoping I would have early there. What are they? Just want to see something?
What we got? Have we got an update on those? We've got a couple of little comments on that one. A little bit on that.
Oh, I just want to show the one with the 2 Christ star peoples on it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just really quick go through so that those when we get back. And there's the whole other big one. The whole other big pack. How am I going to get through that pack? I need 2 more days. Oh, God. We'll be there in a second. Almost ready for the lunch bit. Just one more thing. When I talk about Christ star vehicle, this is what forms in your field. This would be you. There's this lovely crystalline capsule that forms like a crystal structure that forms around you. And it's not like a hard, solid crystal. You're not like locked in a crystal, right, where you can't like get out. It's an energy. It's crystalline energy structure. And this is like the flame body structure around it. And this is when you go into Rasha body. And this is how it corresponds to the 15 geodesic layers of your whole template of your Lumer Adana body. And there's this whole processes. There are things called the Navajo cycles that correspond to each of the domain layers, that when you do the different cycles of the tones, of the ring tones and the span tones, they progressively open the corresponding layers of the Rasha body, which correspondingly turns on the layers of the light body base shields that go with those layers. here, and this is, if we're out here, if our projection line is out this way, moving forward to the future, we've come all the way out here, so we've got all these behind us, which means we're out here, and we've got all of those frequencies behind us. We open up the core frequencies, gives us enough thrust to turn around, and then we can enter the Adasha return cycles back until we reach the Hare Krishna state, and from which point there are more activations that you can go, into like full spherical identity of a Christ star being. So that, in a nutshell, is how it's supposed to work. And it wasn't too bad as far as getting through the new material. If I've lost you, don't feel bad on the new Celestine wave hydrolase conversion. I'm learning this too, so I'm slightly lost as well. So it's not just you, but at least we have an idea of what the process is about that we're going into, and we have a much better idea of what the halls of Rishite are, because otherwise I wouldn't have had any idea what they were, and I don't like to go and wouldn't want to take other people on a journey where I don't know where we're going, because that, that's that blind faith stuff, and we try not to work on that. We try to explain to you how things work so you can make a conscious decision whether you want to participate. So it's time for lunch, and I'm not going to hold you up any longer, and we will see you after lunch. Oh, I'm so excited. I just found out something really, really neat. Now I know why we're in Amsterdam. It's not exactly the sequence I was planning to speak about it, but I'll just squeak all the way through the rest if I don't say something. And maybe, since whatever gets lost at the end, if we end up running over time, maybe it's a good time to put the important stuff at the beginning. So, once everybody's seated, I will share with you what was just shared with me by the beloveds. And before the end of program, we will be able to see a couple of mylars to make it more clear. But there's been an unraveling story for the last couple of workshops about Joshua 12's resurrection, which he wasn't dead when he resurrected. He raised the Eridanus in order to get his codes reactivated so he could go out through the gates, which he did. He went out to Eartha. Before he went out, and it said, and we had published in Voyagers, he left a line of six children were born with him as the father. He wasn't here when where most of them were born, actually. He'd already left. The last one was the hidden line. And I'm just going to try to do this verbatim off the top of my head. I have stuff that has to get mylars made for later for more specific scribbles to look at, because it's still all scribbled. But there was a hidden seventh line of Joshua 12. It was a very special line. It was, let's say, the Eartha line and the Aquiel line. It was a particular bioregenesis attempt that gave back something called the gift of Aquiel, that if it weren't for that gift, we would not be able to have the opening of the, whatever they're called, halls of Rishite. It has to do with a very, very ancient grid set that 200 million years ago, that's like during first seeding period, were put in here in Earth. They linked directly into what is called Earth's Shala 13, which is Earth, one of the three core gates in Earth. The race line from that early seeding one were referred to as the keepers of the crystal core. Their race line became extinct with the 5.5 million years ago in the electric wars. What I didn't know at all was anything about them, right, consciously anyway. What they just explained to me is, first of all, the reason that they have been building up to talking about the Joshua 12 lines, and particularly the hidden line 7, was because the last line, the seventh line, that he did leave behind, well, sort of. He helped to create that line here, but the child was born in, I think, Eartha or Aquiferion, and then she was Aquiferion. And that's in the Aurora field, which means it's in the Aquial matrix that we'll see a bit more about later in relationship to where M31 is, where we are, and where it is. The child she was the first born that had the full set of the Keepers of the Crystal Core codes. And that particular bioregenesis line was developed specifically, and she was born in 27 AD, but she was not born here. 12 years later, she was brought back into the earth realms. But she was brought back to bring back to here the gift of Aquiel, which was to create a gene line that had the codes of the crystal core keepers. And it's much more important than being keepers of the crystal skulls. They're something different entirely, and not of ours. Right? However, this lineage has spanned oceans because she actually gave birth to a daughter that became known as the White Buffalo Woman in America. But the lineage, the main lineage, it was a rather large lineage that ended up with one set of seven each of them having 7 children. And that is a Gaelic Dutch lineage. They are here and in Ireland. And that is almost all, except for the few that have partial codes that are all over the place, that went out from those lineages. One sad thing about this line that was created was, in order to bring codes that powerful into the mutation that was here, it was very difficult at the start. And there is a particular genetic thing that still shows from some of those who were connected to that lineage. Fortunately, the ones that have the full sets of the crystal core keepers, the Shala 13 core gatekeepers, they did not have it. Because of the lines of the 7 children of each of the 7 lines that were born, they're the first child and the 7th child would survive. But those in between wouldn't, because of the code, because it created a genetic condition. That condition in this day and age is called, I think, progeria, where the aging disease, whereby they would die of old age by the time they were, 10 years old or something like that. But I think it's on one of the things sent out from Mylar. But of the 7 sets of 7 lines, one, I think it was the first one, was left here on Earth, and the 7th was brought to where Aquiel's line came from. And then there were progressive bringing in of more of the codes into the lines. And this particular race regenesis was done in this area because of something that is in the North Sea, actually. It's a particular grid set that links directly through the Aquiel matrix to M31, which is the Andromeda galaxy that is our original, this galaxy's original home. And it links directly into there and into the North Sea. It was hijacked quite a while ago. And there's a triangulation called the 666 triangulation that you will see when we look at the maps, the star map things that show the Cathar grid alignments between the gates here and the gates in the Milky Way galaxy and the gates in the M31 galaxy that is ours. And this area, and this was a long time before it was called Amsterdam, but in this area, it was known that a particular direct core linked to the crystal core, which meant direct passage out to Eartha for those who were the keepers who had the codes. That's why this area was used as a target for the ones from what is called the Prosiac matrix that you'll see a bit about. That's the Daisy of Death matrix, those guys, the Bloom of Doom. They hijacked part of a gate interface. It's not even a gate. It's more like a direct core-to-core opening between Shala 13 in Earth's core and Andromeda through the Aquial matrix. There were a set of interface gates that were put around it, so because this was in the water even then, so it could be easily accessed from land. And there was a cluster of those gates that were taken over, and they were plugged into a place called Apollyon. Apollyon is the dark fallen sun on the Yahweh side in the Wisadek matrix, black hole system. And it is one of the key, this triangulation. And I believe it runs through, where did it go through? It's on one of the maps. We just got this stuff down. But anyway, we'll get to the maps later. But this triangulation has literally helped to hold this planet hostage. And it's run through the Nibiru Datic crystal grid matrices that have been progressively seeded here. And it keeps the Earth and also the Sun locked in to the Prosiac Milky Way false memory matrix. And it does a bunch of other things too that eventually we'll probably find out about. It prevented, having this interface prevented the keepers of the crystal core from being able to access the crystal core gates. That is changing now. And the lineage is here and in Ireland primarily, and also there are some among the Navajo tribes in America and some of their descendants. But the primary crystal core keepers are here, and this is why we came here to do this, because finally, because of the other gates that are opening and the support systems that are being brought in, there was something put in that was called the gift of Aquiel, or the 4 crystal hearts of Aquiel. And there are a series of interfaces. One is in Dublin area in Ireland, and one is here, and one is, I have to see on the map, but they're very close. You'll see this later, but I just couldn't wait to tell you, because what it will allow to happen is to have the gate interface that is compromising the core Shala 13 gate link. We will be able to sever that and hold the gate stable by putting it into the 4 hearts of Aquiel link, which are the crystal heart grids, that will support it. So it will allow this very ancient direct connection to core to open. This opens a potential passage as far as groups of people and even portions of land masses that would not otherwise have the ability to go into a slide when the time comes to be able to stay on the path of ascension. If this weren't able to open, the percentages would be much, much lower. But because of what is activating around us and the fact that that's going well as far as the Andromeda Matrix and all of that, because it's going early, we can do it now. It was something we were going to find out about kind of later after the workshop, right? But because the halls of Rishate are opening in Andromeda, it is time to catch that and anchor that opening here. And what it will do is release the 666 triangulation in the grid set here. One runs through Paris, it runs through Brussels, and it runs through Amsterdam, and literally hijacked that ancient matrix that was a direct host link into Andromeda through Aquiel. So it's really big news. I was just really excited, and I was excited about the fact too that the lineage, it's quite a rare lineage actually. There's lots of Aquariline humans here at this point, and Aquariline not humans, and all sorts of us that came from other places in to help on the host. But this particular race line that was brought back, it was a seeding 1 race line, the seeding 1 Turnicium humans, angelic humans, and not just the humans. It also had the Aquarian line, the purest the Earth Aquarii, where there were in seeding 1, we weren't here alone. We were seeded with a guardian race to take care of the angelic humans until they got their bearings, and they were a pure Aquari race. And these were the ones that became the crystal keepers, the keepers of the crystal core. And that is the lineage that was brought back in through the seventh hidden line of Jeshua 12. And the majority of that line and its descendants are here. And the other majority of them are in Ireland. And then there's a few scattered around. We'll see later, if there's time, the very messy someday genealogical chart that kind of brings down the lines from Jeshua, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, that kind of thing, just to show the lines and where they went. But the two main lines were in the Amsterdam area. It wasn't called that then, but in the Amsterdam area, and they are still here, and also in the Southern Ireland area. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I knew nothing about this part, the keepers of the crystal core, but I do know that our Spanner 7 gate, that is the one that's allowing all of the gate systems to still run here, that connects down through the 7 network, that links through Shalon 7 in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and then Alon 7 in Colorado, and then down in through Peru and those kind of things. That was, to my knowledge, the only one that had direct access to the core. This other gate, which meant there were very, very few who would be able to ever use that gate set, or to, let's say, have the benefits of passing through it, which you need to do which you need to do, I'm talking to them, you need to do in order to get into the Hall of Records. You need to be able to, at least in Russia, pass through the Shala core gates. Only people that were coded to the 7 gate set over there would ever be able to access that, and most of those were intentionally and purposely wiped out progressively over the course of recent history by the fallen angelic groups here, because they knew that. And they already figured they had this one under control. Well, you know what? They don't have it under control. You guys have it under control, the people from this area. There's a reason why there is this little pool of people interested in this work that can seem a bit out there, if you haven't studied advanced metaphysics before. There's a reason why you got interested in this paradigm. It was, again, one of those quiet calls put out. There's a silent call that has to do with DNA resonating with something, even if you can't identify what it is. The people here that are from this area, or have, even if you're from America or someplace else and have descendants from this area, there is the majority of people here, and even some of the people that are from, some of the people that are from America even are some of the keepers, because their lines moved from here, where originally they came from here. So, because you are all still here and alive, you have the codes in your DNA to open this particular set. It couldn't be done before, and the fact that this gate set had been compromised with the 666 configuration meant it had your bodies locked in to the 666 configuration, and you would not be able to shift to purge the 666 phase lock on your Merkaba fields and on your atomic structure. It gave you an atomic lock. And it was intended to do that as well. That was part of the intentional design the FAs had in mind. That is going to be ancient history after this workshop is over. And this is a freeing. There's more to the story. I can feel it there. Part of me, it feels like it's like tears up here. But there's not time for that. And I can't keep going on and on about that, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff I got to show you so we can get to the point where we can get to the journey. Because the journey is the point at which that atomic phase lock, that more than any of the other phase lock that has been on this planet as far as gene lines and things, it was like a triple death seal for the people in those lines. And a release of that will release all sorts of other things to heal other things in other people, because the people who came from that original cluster of J12's seventh line descendants, they went out and had, and intermarried and had children elsewhere and those kind of things. So there is a huge matrix of people that span the oceans and are on all continents at this point that are affected by the 666 configuration that the main lines were locked into. It's called the curse of Yahweh, actually. And with your release and passing into the halls of Rishatay, you will be enabled to get that original code back through the iridonis, so it clears the mutation out of the codes you do carry, and that will run through the shield and everyone else and anyone else who is a descendant at all, I have you in a little tiny bit. It will give them an actual boost, because it will turn around the frequencies that were plugged in to the Yahweh matrix and into the Daisy of Doom, and it will actually, you will have extra energy from it to actually, you'll get it like a jump start on the healing process compared to other people who are still going to, have a certain base pulse rhythm. It will amp your base pulse rhythm once it's freed. It'll give you an advantage in healing that will be given instantly out through the Aquafarian shield, that will assist the entire shield, not just humans. It will assist the plants and animals and parts of the planet itself that can still hold that frequency. So it is a really big thing. There's like this whole ball of excitement. I can feel it, but I can't even articulate it. I'm just learning about this myself. But I wanted to let you know, just in case there wasn't time to let you know at the end, I figured it was important that you got to understand that there's a very, very special group of people here, and there's a very special reunion that will come of this. There is a race line that was created not just here, but also in the Aquael matrix, in the Ascension Earth matrix, and also in the Andromeda M31 galaxy, and they're called the Aquafari. And the Aquafari are, remember when I said there were the 7 lines and each had 7 children, and the first of the 7 would stay here and the 7th would be taken to go to Aquael and then to the other Andromeda matrix. Well, the ones who went to Andromeda they created and became the Aquafari race. This is the race line that is completely and totally compatible with the angelic human Aquari race line here. It is also the race line that for people on this planet who can't get their bodies out in time, or they can't turn the bioclocks back because it's gone too far, this is the next incarnational line where we can literally, when it's time or natural time to go, if we don't take our bodies, we would go into an Aquafari line there, and we would have access back and forth, at least for 223 years, as far as, while the gates are open. So it's just, we're part of a huge story, and I knew nothing about the Amsterdam connection other than that we were supposed to go. Didn't know why. Now we have a little bit more information on that, and I just wanted to make sure those facts didn't slip through the cracks of time as we're rushing through 500 million graphs toward the end of the workshop. So I'm going to do a bit more graphology. Then they're going to let me know when it's the right time to do the journey, because they're coinciding the journey with the release of the wave. It's a wave of frequency coming in from M31 that will come through the Aquael matrix and come into this area because of that particular thing in the North Sea that is literally right off the coastline of Amsterdam, where it goes into the North Sea. And that is activating. And because you are here, and your gene lines will activate naturally in relation to it once the seal can be released. So we're going to catch the wave, ride the wave in, because it'll give us all protection, including you, and go into the halls of Rishatay and pick up the full original imprint, which will clean off the distortion imprint from the 666. And the fact that you did that, and there's enough of you present and still alive on planet, it will actually release the hold of the smaller interface network, and it will free the main gate, and then it can be instantly plugged in to a set of natural gate interface structures that are called the 4 crystal hearts of Aquiel, and they are the gift of Aquiel. They've been telling us for a while, there's the gift of Aquiel, the gift of Aquiel. Don't know what it is. Well, it's the return and the waking up of the crystal core keepers. And that group is here and scattered around Europe a lot too, but mainly it's in Holland, and it is in Southern Ireland. So I would just like to say hi, guys. It's been a long time no see. Right. So I will get back into graphs now, but I just wanted to get that off me there, because I would have been too bouncy with carrying that until the end. I didn't want to forget anything so far that they told me, actually. Hold on. Have the jacket off. It's the way. Can you turn that on? Mm-hmm. Yeah, please. Ow. All right. That was on the top? That was on the top of my pile? Where am I? Oh, yeah. We're going to barrel on through this really fast so we can get the next bit of stuff. Okay. Now, there's going to be a lot of detail in the charts you see fly by right now. It's not necessary in this program. They were covered a bit more deeply in the Virginia Beach workshop, where they were just introduced. But I do want you to just see the concepts as they move by a bit. I want to move through this part quickly so we can get on to the other parts, because one of the most important things, particularly now, now that we find out about the 666 configuration of gates and things that's happening here, it's most important that you come to understand the Andromeda connection, and that is the next pack of graphs. Okay, so this part, I've already explained structure enough to the point where you can understand what halls are, you can understand what the Akashic and Akashic records are, so you basically have an orientation where you can do the type of journey that is needed, knowing what you're doing, knowing where you're going and what it's connected to. But it is fascinating, too, to see. We also showed you what ascension is, basically, what it really is, what the structure is, what we're moving through. So I think at least you've got a decent roundup to, mentally, to be able to say, this makes more sense than anything they've told us so far out there, right? Because it really does. It is giving you an idea of what real ascension is about, and this is what brings it home. When we see these time cycles, again, the tachyon cycles, this is, we just introduced this, and that's why the graphs are still messy, in Virginia Beach in September. But it shows, if you can ignore that little guy for a minute, and just remember that here is where the spirit body would be born, right? It starts actually down here, and this is the Cetus cycle, and the spirit body, the Lumeridana, would birth there. Then you would have the Rasha cycle and the Taran first cycle. That is the gestation cycle. And then you'd have the Big Bang point. Well, this happens every time a sperm and an egg come together and actually fertilize. And there's very specific sperms. Sperms come in groups that will carry the coatings, or naturally would, carry the coatings of the encryption of Illyrian chambers 1 through 12. And it is only the sixth chamber. And it's actually, these are Illyrian lines. They run between the chambers. If they're correcting, that, because the Illyrian chambers are a set of 12. Right? If you put the 12 set here, these guys, except for the main verticals and horizontals, run in between them. Okay, because these are at 45 degrees and the others are at 30 degrees. So these are Illyrian lines, which run on the 45-degree thing. And it is the sixth line, the one that carries the encryption for this one, that will be the sperm that fertilizes the egg out of a clutch of them. And it is because that is what will set in motion the Navena cycle, where you have the creation of the first particle, you have the creation of the second particle, they form the triad, then the Cetus cycle starts. And through this process of the fertilization point, there is literally the birthing of the spiritual body that takes place. Now, it is not fetally integrated yet. So actually, fetal integration doesn't take place until somewhere over here. And if I had time to read all the little tiny bits, it would be one thing. But if I do this, we won't get to the important stuff for this workshop subject matter. But there is between 33rd and 56th day when naturally, it's in this period that naturally you would have the beginning of fetal integration occur. Fetal integration has to do with once the spirit body is birthed, it's still in spirit, it's still safe, but it's connected in, it's now got part of its Rasha template built and grown. It's connected in to the fetal pattern, but the spirit and the consciousness have not come into the body yet. That does not happen at the fertilization point. It does not. It can't. It would blow the physical matter form apart because there's too much frequency, too much base pulse rhythm in even the smallest bit of the spiritual energies. So it's literally 33 to 56 days after the fertilization point before a soul, before a spirit can actually incarnate in to make that a new person. Other than that, you have a potential new person coming in. But it is kind of like in what you call overshadow, where the spirit body is there, and the spirit body will be fine. If it doesn't, if that particular form in manifestation doesn't work out, it'll simply pull itself back and make other agreements, possibly with the same people, to try again and to have another one. It's only after, if fetal integration has occurred, that there becomes a problem where the spirit consciousness part, the Adore side and the Ettore spirit side, are stuck to that form. And if that form is taken out from under it at that point, that spirit is stuck to its mother's field. And it will interfere with her natural progression. You would actually have to separate those fields so they could each go on their way again into their natural progression of activating their own bodies and re-spiritualizing their own matter. So that's where there's all sorts of questions that get answered by understanding how this works. Because the whole bit about being afraid to use birth control and just breed like rabbits because somebody once told you, go forth and multiply and multiply and multiply. Yeah, when you're trying to breed little soldiers, little puppet soldiers, of course you'd tell them that. You'd tell them to go do that and make it a sin for them not to. Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with using birth control. In fact, what is wrong is they have our natural biocycles all twisted. We should not be able to have children as often as we do. And when we do, it should be a joyous celebration. And it should be done consciously where we meet them before any fetus is created. And then we all together choose how to work it. And you talk to them all the way through and you know their name before they even integrate. I mean, all sorts of things. But that'll be another workshop probably. But we've got a problem in this entire structure that should be the building of the physical body and then the light body, and the Rasha body and the light body. Right around here is when you get where the spirit body fully attaches and begins to open itself in through the Rasha body into the physical form. And then the light body is still building around it. And the light body, as it builds quantum, is actually sending energy into the cellular structure. And this is how, from this point, actually, that the cellular structure of what was egg and sperm starts to expand and replicate. First it divides, and then it starts to make more, where it gets larger. The process doesn't work naturally here at this point because of this. This is the 666 seed atom that I've mentioned. It is a specific distortion that turns the natural energies and structures of the Rasha body in on itself and hijacks the light body. It hijacks it from what would be the normal crystal spiral of expansion coming out into the golden mini spiral. We call it the head of the golden serpent. And this particular configuration hits right at the point in time when the fetal integration would be starting, and it hijacks a portion of the spirit into the body, and then it severs the connection to the spirit body. Now the light body still builds. It will still keep growing because it hasn't affected the full Rasha template. It's only affected part of it. And it's like hijacking a part of the light body while the other part of the light body keeps growing around it. You still have the spirit body and the Adore side, but it also gets the Adore side stuck, where there is the other part of your consciousness that's in the Adore manifestation vector. And that can't go through a natural Adashi cycle while it's stuck in a form like this. So it is important for both sides of creation to be able to finish our regenesis, because they get hung up if we're hung up biologically, and we have been hung up biologically for a long time. This has been progressively built into the gene code. The natural process is quite beautiful. They take it from here. This is what I thought was really cool. Can we go down here for a minute, Henry, please? Down here. They start at the fertilization point, and then they go for The first, remember these correspond later to the harmonic key cycles, but they go the first second, second second, third second, all the way the first 12 seconds, then the first 12 minutes, then the first 12 hours, right? Until you get to up here, and I believe that's, can I see the top again? I think that's the 12th hour, but I'm not sure. Is this hour 12? Yeah. That is when the spirit body births, okay? So the Ilumeridana actually births at the 12th hour following the fertilization period. And then from there, it moves into the tachyon cycles, or the quantum building expansion cycles, and the birthing of the Rasha. And normally that would go on all the way through here, and there would be 4 trimesters, each with 3 harmonic key cycles in them, 3 cycles of expansion. The Rasha body would build, and at the end of the 9th month would be the natural point for the birth of the child. If at this point, a lot of us, indigos, especially Aquarian indigos, that are trying to get in here and not get totally destroyed by the mutation, so we can't clear enough of it in time before it shuts down and we just can't access the information anymore, a lot of us are barreling out at month 7. Just because if you can separate from the mother's field that would be holding the pattern too, you at least have a chance for the beloveds to interface with you from the Adore side and try to at least protect you long enough till they can teach you to try to reverse mutate your gene code, right? So we're in the middle of this mess here when it's really a beautiful process, and it's a process that once, if it were working normally, we would have the birth of the physical form that was progressively expanded because of the quantum that is being built through the Rasha body and through the light body structure. And part of that light body structure is sending the crystal spirals out into feeding the cellular growth and cellular structure. And there's a whole cycle that would evolve from this that we call it the birthday chart, which is kind of cool. It shows you, if it were working naturally, at what ages what would be integrated. Can we go to the next one, please? I might have to skip a few over on this just to get to where we are. I won't skip the birthday chart, though. That's pretty cool. This is just showing something that we'll cover more heavily later. This is the natural interaction between sperm and egg and the things that happen with them. And each of them carry a portion of the Dale codes. All right, at the core, we had remember the Dale Luma was at the center, and the Dale Risha was on the Kali Hara body side. That would be carried by the male. And the Dale Krista was carried by the female, that was connected to the Maharisha body of the Hara set, right? So literally, the egg and sperm, they each carry a piece of the coding for that. And when you put them together, they begin the process of life. So there's this whole explanation. One of the first things that happens is the Illyrian lines, actually the lines that will become the chambers open, and from them we end up with the spark lines that are the 45-degree ones. So this is where the Illyrian imprint first comes together, where you have 6 vectors from one and 6 vectors from the other. They come together, and they still have the 6 vectors, but the Adore and the Ettore side together. So they have the potentiality of becoming an opening set of Illyrian chambers that allows the flow between the 2 spaces. And we all start this way to get here, and it does start that way, but it starts with it limping, because there are certain mutations in the natural things that are supposed to be carried inside the natural Jaleesic radiation that are supposed to be carried inside that would normally match, and we hadn't gone over this heavily in this workshop, but we did in the others, in the Virginia Beach one, that these rings that would match, they are prana rings that should have equal amounts, so 1 prana chi, 1 prana ki. And the prana ki, actually, should be carried in the females, and that carries the Elan jewels, and the prana chi should be carried in the males. What the mutation does is it takes 6 of the 12 units of prana chi, reverses them, turns them into ki, pulls the other 6 into the core and makes a mess and blocks the core, and leaves 6 only. And when that connects with the females, even though the females still carry the original imprint, as soon as it interfaces with that, it gets overpowered by the center. It pulls 6 of those into the center, and it creates what is a mutated, it ends up as a 666 configuration in the center that sets the whole mutation in motion. So it starts from the beginning, and it is carried in the male gene line. And there are codes within the matriarchal DNA that have the ability, and that goes for males or females. There are codes that are carried by the mother lines that will allow, under certain conditions, activation of things that will begin to heal this process. And one of the okay, they're just telling me this, so that's why I went there. One of the things that when we do the journey today, it will begin the process of is activating the mother codes in the DNA by activating the Jeshua codes that are connected to the codes of Aquiel. Aquiel was the name of Jeshua's daughter in the seventh line, the one child of the seventh line. And she was named after the matrix from which her spirit came. And so the codes of Aquiel will begin the process of changing this in those males who are working with it, which means it will change all sorts of things about unnatural energy configurations that take place between males and females right now. We both end up getting distorted, and we are, carrying mutation. So it will begin the process that will eventually allow for healthy breatharian babies to be born, like we were all supposed to be. The reason we have to eat, the reason we have certain things and we actually adopted the imprint for them willingly, like teeth, like digestive tracts, because we would have been extinct by now if we hadn't made some kind of modifications to the form once they shut down our ability to do solar symbiosis and hydrolase conversion. So once this mutation begins to release, it will literally give the ability to go to bring genetic lines in, even if it's only for 223 years, in that will carry the natural code, and that will allow for more people to be able to make it out in that 223-year period. So it's it's a big project we're a part of. So I just wanted to see a little bit of that. Next one, please. I got to go on faster. I think that's the other stuff. This is just showing more of the same thing about the eye of God and how all these things form, same just as they do with as we showed you with the Sita cycle and the Kushite cycle. Next one, please. And it leads up to at the 12th hour, the birthing of the Lumaridana. This stuff just goes in to show at what stages some of the things occur. So we were making the connections with all of those, and I don't have time to go through this all now, but you can see at least where it's going. Like we're plugging it into what science knows and how things work, and eventually we're going to plug it into and what shouldn't be happening that is. Next one, please. This, again, just shows the progression. Now, right here is where the mutation hits, and it starts with the mutation in the sperm-egg combination, but it creates a mess of there are certain energies that are supposed to open at the tailbone and they end up in our head instead, where they literally reverse currents in the body and turn them in on themselves, and it creates, instead of the natural flow between the Rasha bodies and the spirit body and the growing baby body, it creates a tube torus effect instead, or the yin-yang mess, and that begins the process of the Metatronic harness, and or the daisy of the bloom of doom daisy of death harness, that completely messes up the light body structure that is surrounding, immediately surrounding the growing fetus here. So we covered a bit of this in Virginia Beach. There's more to this. There's lots more to this. But I just wanted you to see where the big stuff that's out there in the cosmos is very much connected to the little stuff, too, even little babies. Right? And that means once upon a time to you, too. And it means you've grown within this harness. This is our bioharness, and we're netted into it, literally, through the gene lines. Next one, please. Now, if we were going to have things working naturally with our bodies, we would go through the same process, right, of building we'd have the tarn, we'd have the dyad, the myad, the monad, the hemorrhea cell, the adon, the edon, the aton, and all the way up through the rest of them. We would have the Rosetta cluster, we would have the Yanase suns, we would have the unisuns, we would have the Lumaridana body, etc. And what is neat about this is if we take this, and right now you still see the proportions of what are the Rasha proportions, the natural that are set by the Rasha, but they're also the light body base shield proportions of what spheres would be how big. Now, if we just take those just for the sense of the diagram, same information and just even them all out so I can show so I can show what happens up here on a diagram, because they get so big when you get out here that it's hard to show anything. We're up to level 12 and there's 15 to deal with, and that's only one set. So I want to show you, because this becomes what we call the birthday chart once you even out the spheres, and just know that even though you're seeing them evened out, the proportions are what they are here, but it just was consolidating information for the graph purpose. Not yet, but it will be in a minute. Next one, please. There we go. Birthday chart. Now, if we start in here, right? If we start here was the fertilization point, right? Here was the cetocycle start, right? Here is the gestation period. There's the Big Bang birth of the physical body, right? This starts, this is what I think is called transfiguration point 1. There's a transfiguration year, actually. It takes a 12-month cycle, year, to make to finish the fetal integration process, where you started bringing in the spirit body frequencies that correspond to density 1 at between 33 and 56 days. And under normal circumstances, that process would continue past birth to the first birthday of the body. And the first birthday of the body would be considered transfiguration point 1. And at that point, at transfiguration points, this is where each one of these cycles, you'll have a period of 3, they call it the 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 leap, right? So if you're born here, the first 3 years, 1, 2, 3, would be about integrating the frequencies, where the light body frequencies from the Atori and the Idori side, each on their own side, are actually going through a conversion into matter and filling out the form. Then there is another period of 3 of 3 years. So you have the 3 plus 3 more years of accreting those frequencies fully, and then you have what would be the flame cycle, where the frequencies of both sides are brought together. So you'd have 1 year of, they call it acceleration. 1 year, I'm just learning what these cycles are. 1 year of initiation, 1 year of acceleration, and then you'd have leap. Okay? So basically what you get is, by the time, if you're born here, your first birthday is here. This is your density 1 cycle. You're processing the frequencies associated with density 1, which I believe were the dyad frequencies, and what's connected to that from the other chart where it showed them in proportion. I think that's the dyad one. I don't have all the information put on them yet because I didn't have time. So we have birth, first birthday, birthday number 2, birthday number 3. So this would be year 1, right? You're born here, and that's your first year of life to your first birthday, right? So the year comes first, and then the birthday. So we have birthday 1, birthday 2, birthday 3, birthday 4, birthday 5, birthday 6, birthday 7, birthday 8, leap. The leap is the period of time where, during this period, this is called the BPR leap. And this is actually the leap year itself. It is a BPR increase, and is caused through the Idori and the Atori frequencies coming together, and the density 1 level of the halls of Rishite opening, and that would be the acceleration year. If you don't make that acceleration year, you don't do the shift. There is a shift cycle of angular rotation of particle spin, and a portion of the atomic matter base that grew here would actually integrate its Idori side, its they call it adjugate twin, and de-densify while still expanding the body outward, and be able to shift a bit of angular rotation of particle spin to the next cycle. So through the 9th year, by the time you hit the 9th birthday, you would be in the density 2 frequencies. And each of the densities have a different type of energy. And the density 1 ones tend to be the heaviest, or the thickest frequencies. So each set of years, we would be bringing in first, translating the light body structures, growing the light body, and then its currents translating into frozen light, or matter, that matter skin, on top of the iridonis energies that are coming in from the other side. And then once we accrete those frequencies. Then we begin to first you actually I just remembered something. The first is bringing the light body frequencies in. That's the first 3 years. The second is bringing the iridanis frequencies into the light body, and then you have the fully opening the adjugate twin sets that leads to the leap in BPR, that leads to the shift into the angular rotation of particle spin of the next density, characteristic to the next density. All right, so if density 1 is your incarnate self, right, you should be done with that processing, that whole cycle, by the time you hit the eighth birthday, and you should, the 8th to 9th year would be your shift year, where you would actually shift into processing the density 2 frequencies. You would start soul integration here. Okay, so when transfiguration 2 would correspond to density 2, corresponds to the density 2 soul identity of the light body. So you'd do that, and that would take you all the way through to the next leap year acceleration in BPR, which would be birthday 16, and then 16 to 17, you would go into the density 3 cycle. And then you would hit your BPR leap year, and then shift at 24, and then shift into, by 25, shift into the density 4 cycle. You do the density 4 cycle until you hit the 32nd birthday. This would be your BPR leap year, and this would be your shift year from 32 to 33. And at that point is where you progressively have integrated the frequencies of where those celestialine suns are located in the Rasha and light body structures, and you would open up all of the currents behind you, because here you would be finished with your 4th cycle, which means you would hit your Kali Yuga. Right? And that's the time that you are supposed to do your Adashi turnaround, enter Starfire and your Adashi turnaround. So it is this point from the age of 33, that is the perfected form, where you've integrated all of the light body encryption of the 4 densities. You are an integrated avatar, and at that point you would enter the Christ star state, go through a shift down here, and you would enter, come back around in this cycle in reverse spin as the Adashi 1 cycle. Right? And then you do the Adashi 1 cycle, and you would hit down here, you would hit your BPR acceleration, and then shift year, and then you go into the Adashi 2 cycles, and then you go into the Adashi 3 cycles, and then you go into larger cycles, which have to do with going into cycle, before you go home into source, you would first go into those larger Lumeridana cosmic cycles, and then you would go home into source and come back as kind of a cosmos, as a fully Christed being. This is the natural process that is supposed to occur when people are born, and it doesn't on this planet because of the mutation. So I wanted to at least get you where you could see this, where although the big structure stuff that you've kind of suffered through with me leads to understanding that it's very practical, that this information is very practical, and there is a way it's meant to be. There are ways the universe really does work. It's not all we figured this out or we theorize it might be this. This is not a theory. All right, you can take it as a theory if you want to, but there's a lot of universes out there who people believe it and know it because they live it. So anyway, next one, please. And this is just showing the same little version of the same thing in relation to, remember the layers that early on we talked about, the incarnate, the soul, the oversoul, the avatar, the rishi, the Jimentak Enedi, the Rishi, the Yakar, right? All of that is about this and integrating those frequencies. The avatar level would be that 33 point, and that would be your perfected hydrogelesic level body. That the image of the body as 33 in its perfect state would be the eternal image, the Christed image that would never age past that point. All right. Now there's certain leaps that if you don't make the leaps, you go back around for the cycle. But if you keep going back around for the same cycle and you never get your BPR high enough, like it normally should be, by integrating the frequencies that should be coming in, you get stuck to the point where you burn out the core energy quantum in the seed atom. And that is what the mutation does to us. That is why we die. Because we have the Metatronic code plugged into this, and instead of natural crystal spirals in their natural shapes coming out and feeding the cellular structure, feeding the spirit body into the atomic body through the iridanis, that is blocked from occurring. So you get X amount of quantum that gets stuck of the spirit that gets stuck at the fetal integration point between 33 and 56 days, and then that mutation kicks in. And when the mutation kicks in, it takes that quantum, but that's all the body has. It can't bring any more of that eternal life quantum in. So as it grows, it'll still grow. It's feeding cellular structure, but it will grow to the point where it burns out that original quantum and there is none left. And that is when we end up where the body starts to deteriorate. And that happens very, very young. It happens at about around age 12, 11, 12. The death genes kick in. And we actually start to die from about that age. Actually, we start to die from fertilization, the way it's mutated. But the death genes that really start chemical imbalances and really start to manifest themselves as cellular destruction start very, very early, around the 11th year, which should be, they start in here, which we should be, by then, we should have made it through, we should be into our soul integration cycle, density 2, but by this year, the mutation kicks in chemically, because I don't have the full charts done yet, but it shows what it does. It creates what's called the sextant labyrinth, and it literally reverses the cycles partway through and never lets you make the leaps. And you still get older, but you never get the frequencies of the other parts of the light body integrated into, or the spirit body integrated into the physical form. And that's why we feel so lost and separated out here, because it's not just frequencies, they're also parts of our consciousness. And with that parts of our consciousness, it's also understanding, our cosmic understanding, our memory is lost, because these are portions of our memory matrix, this light body structure and the spirit body structure. So we can't even remember who we are, because we can't get enough of ourselves into body to remember who we are. So this is the mutation that we are working to reverse mutate through bioregenesis, natural bioregenesis. Next one, please. This one's messy. I wanted to clean this one up, but then the other stuff hit. This was one of the ones I had on the list I was going to clean up, and it would be nice and clean by the time you saw it. However, then we had the Halsey Risate happen, so it's still messy. This is just showing you the information again about, remember, those cycles that you saw on the birthday chart, they are really proportioned like this, as far as the size of the Rosettas, right? The Rosetta clusters would be the size proportionally of the cycles. So these are much larger cycles, time cycles. When you get into the Adashi expansion, or expanding into the Adashi return cycles, they're much, much larger. And there are all sorts of things that will be fascinating to find out, like what if you compare the stages of development at, say, birthday 3 or birthday 6 or whatever, and the changes that are taking place in the bodies now, and then find out, I'd love to find out at some point from the beloveds what is supposed to happen at that age, that doesn't. But we just got this material in Virginia Beach in September, and there's not been time to process it any further. It simply gives you a rundown on what years you should be, going on to the next stage to get to the point. And it was just what I did on the spiral chart, on the birthday chart, where I started by the age of 33. That is when you should be a fully integrated avatar. And that's when you would go through a natural starfire cycle, open up all the little celestialine suns and seals, and go through your Dashi turnaround with the eternal body. And the body would turn into the hydrogelesic state while it was going through the turnaround, and then it would resolidify in a matter base that was natural for the Adashi 1 cycle and carry on from there. So anyway, that is the process that's supposed to happen, and we're working on cleaning these up, but I just wanted you to see that they exist. Next one, please. Through that whole process, of course, the Illumeridana and the Luma Eterna, which is the smaller one inside of it, would progressively open. All of the flows would open and turn on in the body, and you would become a fully Christed son, a son of God, and a son in God, and not a son with an O, a son with a U, right? A flaming son of God. So next one, please. Your fields would have these huge vortex chakra systems open, natural vortex chakra systems. When you were going through a gate, these vortices would come together and they would form sets of Merkaba fields, right? Where you have, I don't have Merkaba drawings here, but where you'd have one vortex that way, and the next one coming down through it this way. There's a whole section, that, for those who don't know, that we spent like a year doing Merkaba. So there's tons of Merkaba stuffs in some of the back products, just so you know. But these would all turn into vortices when you turn into light, right? And then they open back up again when you're walking around and you want to keep your body in a solid form. And we would have the Dalikalea chamber, this is called. This is the vertical one. This corresponds directly with the 8-cell cluster and the first cell, right? Where you'd have these chambers that would run naturally, because you have a small version of this inside, but you're actually walking around in it as well. So you've got your Hall of Records right around you, as well as consolidated in a smaller version in your D1 etheric level. But you have your larger one would be literally around you. You're walking around in it, and you're projecting energy out in front of you, and you're bringing the energy in from behind you, and it's a natural circulation. So you get all the way out, and then you turn around again and head back home. It's supposed to be a stroll through the park. Yeah, and see, these are huge chambers that open. That's your forward moving through time one. And this is where, from behind, you would be connected. If you're still moving outward in your Akashi cycles, you'd be connected to the Adore side through the back side, because it's behind you, right? Because you're moving outward on your vector, it's moving outward on its vector that way. But when you both get to the point where you hit your Kali cycles, the end cycles, and turn around, then you'll be coming back to face each other again. In the meantime, we have the Iridanis body. And the Iridanis body, when we start working with that, you actually bring it through from behind. And there are certain things in the shield that have been done already, because the last thing you want to do is, without having certain activations being running in the shield that you're in, you do not want to bring what's behind you directly into your body, because we are at this point where you're supposed to have a horizontal alignment completely on your vector line. We're actually twisted, and behind is not behind. We are not facing, our backs are not facing the center, and there's something, I forget what they called it, but it's like this big nasty shadow thing, a gaping hole that leads down into the Yowie matrix through the Procyon matrix. So there are the activations that the Aquafarian shield is doing. Actually, the Aurora field, which is the Aquiel field, actually shifts and allows the alignment. It's almost like we're stuck here, so it'll actually shift the alignment so we can pull it in through the back like it needs to come in. And by doing that, we can pull the mutation up and out in layers. And it's as if the Iridanis body will, and this is called a resurrection technology, where you bring the Iridanis body up, which is the spirit of the adjugate, and you bring that energy up. It holds the perfect template of what this body is supposed to be and still is over on the other side, and what it is in the natural structure of the Hall of Records. So when you bring the Iridanis body up, and you need to lay down to do it, it walks around behind you, but in order to bring it up, you have to align with the Dale Kalea chamber, and that chamber will stay this way, all right? And there's this, I think, wait, this is this one. It's the Hare Krista chamber. It's this one. That chamber will stay that way. And if you lay down, you're now horizontal in it. And you need to bring it up through that chamber. So if you try to bring it through this way, it'll come through, but it won't pass through your own internal seed atom and Akashic record in the same way. So it's important to lay down and bring it up through the channel for the Hare Krista chamber from behind you, but not while you're standing up. It won't hurt you to do it if you're standing up, but it won't work as well. You can still bring it in, but it won't connect into the core in the same way that can be used for the resurrection technology. And what you're doing is resurrecting your divine blueprint, the original blueprint of your spirit body that would be held and still natural in the spirit body. And we've been using these progressively. We are going to use the Iridanis body. I don't know if I have that in that sequence, do I? I might have put that one in another one. Okay, I will look then. Let me see, because they're moving me on. We're going to be doing the journey real soon. I can feel it. Okay, let me see. All right, I'll show that one. I want to show where Rachele is. Both of these, and I want to find that one, the one that has the, the Iridanis one. Just let's see if it's on the back. It might have got stuck on the back. I know it's in here somewhere. We're coming. Somewhere in here, I know it is. Is that it? Come on, where are you? I'm looking for my Iridonis. There it is. When I'm talking about the Iridonis body, there we go. Yes, please. When I'm talking about the Iridonis body, it's interesting because if this is like squishing up your vector so you can see them both. If this is your spirit body or your Adore body, your spirit body going out on the Adore vector that way, and this is your event horizon this way, moving this way, the Iridonis body is actually facing in the same direction that you are. All right? And that is the spirit body of the Adore side. The Adore would have the same relationship with your spirit body. So there's a reason for this. It's about all sorts of complicated currents that from the creation point, Mane goes out and Ire goes out. This has to do with that stuff we talked about of how much thrust going out and how much pull coming back. And there's all sorts of currents that break down between Mana and Prana and Ire and all of that kind of thing. But it creates which currents are going out are the ones that will face out that way. That is their event horizon. They're moving that way. Which currents are going Adore? They're going that way. So these currents that form the Iridonis body, even though they belong to the Adore side, are the Adore spirit body, are going that way, and our spirit body is going the way of the Adore. So it's the process of bringing this one into this one, and which makes on the other side your spirit body move into the Adore side that allows those to come together. And that was the thing that they talked about in that long dissertation in writing that had to do with bringing the Iridonis bodies together. You could bring the two Iridonis bodies, and it would bring the two. First, you'd bring the Iridonis into the manifest body, and then you would bring the two Iridonises together, and it would allow you to go into the Kalahari state, etc., the Hare Krishna state. Sorry. So that, in a nutshell, is the simple process and what it kind of looks like when we do the exercise or the techniques that involve, like there's one that's going to be run tonight on the CDs that we've done before, that is about laying down and bringing it up and starting to consciously work with the Iridonis to begin clearing off layers of the mutation. You can do this even with, now just remember, everything you're made of, every shape inside of you or around you, has an equivalent shape in Iridonis energy. And what you can do is say if you have a broken leg or if you have heart trouble or something like that, and you want to add extra healing, what you can do is learn to play with the Iridonis and bring it up gently and bring it up and out in front as you're laying down, up and out in front of your body, and let it take some of the miasmic mess that is holding that condition of ill health or whatever it is in the body. And the more you would play with that, it would actually really assist in the regenesis or healing of that. Can't say to heal it overnight, but it will help it because you are resurrecting progressively. The divine blueprint is held in the spirit body into or is held in the natural Akashic record on the Adore side into the physical system, which clears out layers of miasmic mess from the distortion. And it's kind of funny because what it looks like when it's happening is when you see your Iridonis with your inner vision, it looks really pretty when you see, when you sense it and see it coming up behind you when you're laying down. And then when you see it come up after it's been in there and picked up some of the muck, it looks like it's covered in like black slimy tar and stuff. And you just kind of rise it up through this is why you need to take it up through the Hare Krishna chamber, the vertical one when you're laying down. It rises up through, and the frequencies of the Hare Krishna chamber will purge it, will clear it. So it clears it off so it can come back down again, and you can do it again, kind of thing. I remember my Iridonis body going, oh, don't want to do that again anytime soon, right? Like it's conscious. It's a part of your consciousness. And I could feel it just going kind of like cringing. Oh, no, she's going to bring me up there again. Got to clear more muck. Ew, right? It wasn't really resisting, but you could tell that it was uncomfortable for it to come into the mutation. But it is you, and it knows that it's there to help you. And at a certain point, once you do the exercise that's being done later tonight, it goes on autopilot where it'll do slow cycles of just natural, like expanding and contracting, moving through, and every time it moves through, it'll bring more of the divine blueprint back, into the body from the spirit body, and it will take more of the muck out and clear it and transmute it. But you can work with it more consciously and do that more quickly, which would accelerate the base pulse rhythm of how fast it came in and out. So that's kind of like a personal choice whether you want to do it or not. Next one, please.
Well, we're going
Oh yeah, where is the next one? I just want to show them Rasha Body. We're getting ready to journey. So I just want to show them Rasha Body in case nobody's seen it. When we've talked about the Rasha Body, remember we have the 15 Jaleesic layer structure. Well, the way they're positioned is, if this is our outside body and how we've learned in Kathara and all of that, well, the Kathara grid represents the light body structure and the proportions of our body within it. Now, this cracked me up when they finally put this together, where your Rasha body is actually, it's positioned within the natural Kathara grid, and we're using the D2 Kathara grid here. All right, this is the D3 Kathara grid, and this is the D2 Kathara grid. It's positioned with its 12 point at the 9 point of the D2 Kathara grid. That's the D2 Kathara grid corresponds to your D2 telluric physical body, right? So if you stood there, and any of you that have worked with Kathara 1, it's the mentor space. That's what we've been beginning to use all along. And they just simply called it our mentor space that's over our right shoulder. And when you begin to bring the frequencies in, the angular rotation and particle spin of this and our particles come into alignment with each other. When you go fully in to a Rasha body state, which takes you into Christ star activation, it's actually your angular rotation and particle spin of your light body and yourself actually shifts and pulls in to the Rasha state. So you get smaller and pull into the Rasha state and do a 45-degree shift in angular rotation and particle spin in order to enter the Christ star state. And then you would be able to manifest wherever you ended up, where you were pointing yourself by thought, and come out the other side and remanifest yourself back out in your physical form. So I wanted you to know where your Rasha body is. So when we travel in Rasha, because they're going to have us do something, and I don't know what it is yet, but it has to do with using both Rasha and Iridanis together. And we've not exactly done that before in a journey, so this is going to be interesting. But this is what we're referring to as the Rasha, the Rasha body inside of its natural light body structure where your physical form is manifesting. And then we have behind you your Iridanis, right? So that would be back here. So you're going to be pulling Iridanis up, doing something with it, and taking it out with Rasha, probably. So it's a new one. I just wanted you to see where that was, how those words would fit together when we do the journey. Next one, please. And there's one more on that. Yeah, just that, and then we're gonna, and then I'll be ready to do it. Yeah. And this, just to remind you, is the Christ star body, and you actually have your Kathara grid in there, right? It's in here, right? But it extends, as far as the frequencies extend up to where the Merkaba fields would be and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to remind you that full activation of the Rasha would create a full activation of the light body structure, would create a full Christ star activation. And that is the genetic capacity we're learning to get back again, because it was ours originally, and it still is. It's still not so far gone that it can't be brought back. It will, before too long, it will be at that point, but it isn't yet. So now is the time. So anyway, I'm just going to sit for 2 seconds and listen to what they say. We're going to do the journey. Should we give a 5 minute for any bathroom runs? Yeah. Okay, yeah. We'll give a 5 minute break for comfort runs. 10 minutes. All right, 10 minutes, because there's a lot of people. Yeah, 10 minutes, and we'll come back and do the journey.
We get there. Just a couple of practical things. First question is, can, on a hand show, the people who are not able to come to do the Iridonis tonight, can you show me? Are you not able to come to do the journey tonight?
I have a question about this. Fred says that Ashiana said that you have to lie down for it, but he can't lie down.
Well, then you can't lie down. So, are there people who are not coming? What?
That's the issue, right?
Well,
For that one, we have to
but
lie down.
if you can't lie down, you can't lie down.
Oh, you can't lie down?
He's in a wheelchair.
Oh, in a wheelchair. Okay. Yeah, you can use the Rasha. In fact, we're going to do something like that in this journey. If you really can't lay down on your back, you can do it with the Rasha. Okay? The way you will do it in this journey, you would do it in the one this evening. It will take a bit longer as far as the frequencies go, but it will still come.
Otherwise we would go, so we'd be here, so we'll be here.
Okay.
Yeah, and that leads to another thing, which is this evening we do have to lie down. At some point in the future we won't have to lie down to do this. Okay? So, that's part of the reason for my question. Are we all coming tonight then? No hand show? Right. All right. And therefore it leads to the next point, which is that since tonight we are being told we have to lie down, than whoever's not on the second dinner shift. I mean, in other words, those who come back from dinner early who are lucky enough to eat first. Right? If they would be kind enough to come back to the room and do chair stacking so the floor's clear, so that when time comes we can just go for it straight away. Otherwise we're going to be up until after midnight, which is silly. All right, so if you can get the room cleared before we begin, which if we finish on time tonight, and we pretty much have to, at 6:30, we'll be doing the journey at 9. All right. Thank you.
All righty. Well, we got the hieroglyphic roadmap. They just gave it to me as far as the main coordinates. It's really strange to run these live because I've not seen them before either. They come down in scribbled form, and as soon as they start to write them down, the frequencies start to activate in my shield, and everything starts to get stiff because it's activating but not running anywhere yet, right? So I'm sitting here kind of like, ow, ow. There's a couple things in this journey that, first of all, the journey is called Journey to the Halls of Rishite through the Shala 13 crystal core and Aquafari Sala Sira Passage. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Right? Yeah, we're aiming for halls of Rishite. Now, these are the cosmic halls of Rishite. All right, this is not just the little local ones. And there is a set of passages that will run. They'll make a little bit more sense to you once we get to the diagrams afterward that show gate interfaces, where we will go from a place that is here on Earth, and this has to do with that very ancient thing from Seating 1 that is out in the North Sea, not far off the coast of Amsterdam. And we're going to go there, and from there we will be able to access a series of passages through into the Aquiel matrix, which you'll understand more of where that is in relation to gates and stuff once we get to the last bit of technicals. And we'll go through it. It's called simply the Aurora Ascension Earth Field. We'll go through there, and that will take us into our home matrix through Eartha Shala core and Shala 13 core, because Eartha has one also. And from there, we're going to go into that will take us literally through Eartha into the M31 matrix, which is the Andromeda Galaxy, which is the home galaxy from which the Milky Way fell. And in this particular journey, it's not a difficult passage, but it is a passage that requires, at one point, it asks us to repeat. It's an access command to be able to access. Let me see, what is it? The Aquafari Sala Sira passage. And so there will be one point where we need to speak. And let's see, it's simple. And I will say it, and you can just say it like after me once we're in that space in the journey. Because these journeys, you are literally moving that Rasha body up and out. It's kind of stretchy, like you don't lose your Rasha body when you send it out, but it takes a portion of your consciousness and a portion of the Rasha, and you can take it and move it places. And that's what we're going to do. So it's going to be a Rasha projection to start with, but the words are simply Sala Sira. And it's Sala on this one. It's the Sala Sira passage, but it's the Shala 13 gate set that we're going through in the core. So there's an H difference there, right? But it's Sala Sira Shadi Utet Heron. And that's actually that's a query speak. That's not even Anahazi speak. That's a query speak for whatever it is that it basically says, "Let me in, please. I'm family." Right? Thanks, guys. Because I'm going, what does that say? So let me in, family, bless you. Yeah. So that will be really the only spoken point. There may be a few times where we're asked to, now we're going to move up or move forward, but like inhale, hold to build charge, and then exhale to push, and like what direction to push in. Because we actually, at times, when we do these journeys, we use the breath. If you haven't done them much with us, we use the breath to control the energy flows in the body to actually put thrust where we want it, or to put momentum or power behind the movement, so that we actually get the Rasha where we're aiming for it to go. When we go in a group like this on a journey, it is called a Shadra shield. There are various forms of Shadra shields. The more complex ones, actually everybody's in different geometrical relationships relationships to each other, and they're very specific. The smaller groups we've done those in. This one we don't have to do that, and because they're quite complicated and take a while to organize and all of that. It looks like a quite nice journey. I got a really fast blow by. Oh, whoa, okay, cool, right? Remember that, write that down. So this is how they give them to me. Because if they put them in too much, they'll activate me and my Rasha will go before I go with the shield. Because what Az and I do, and Mac does too, even if she's not in the room, she does it. The three of us, because we are speakers and flame holders in the center of the Aquafarian shield, which means we get hit with the currents first, it's through our fields, our biofields and our light and Rasha bodies and our spirit bodies that we are able to keep the group shield stable, because people will be at all different activation levels and all different levels where it could wobble. Like it's a disc. It is a disc that floats, a Rasha disc that floats up in the air like a big magic carpet, but it's shaped like a sphere, like a flat, like a plate. All right, and it rises up and it goes where we direct it, where the meditation directs us. And in this case, we're going to go to this ancient place that is off the coast of Amsterdam. And the reason I have this up here is because what we are going to find there, as we follow the journey there, we are going to find a very large, and it's underwater. It's down in the North Sea, down through layers of earth that are of the crust that are under the North Sea, and down to what they are saying is a subterranean lake that is way down under the waters, under the ground, under the waters of the North Sea. And what we will find there is a huge, they're calling it a Christar crystal temple. And it is a travel vehicle that is connected to certain passages. And it is only because there are still people of the crystal core keepers that it can be activated again. And they are waking up on the planet in the places where they are, including the Navajo groups that are in the States. But they have partial coding. The ones who are the full coding are the people who live in Holland and in Ireland. So it's because of all of you being present that we can even go on this journey, and it's really quite exciting that. Finally something good is happening early, because usually it's the other way. But this capsule here, I wanted to point this out to you. For people who might not be, know the work too well, this shape right here, ignore the outside one first, but this shape here, imagine that as a three-dimensional crystal, literally like a lovely crystal around you. And sometimes the crystal will appear as if you're in a colored, like milky type environment where you can't see out. Like if each one of these planes were windows, right? Like if you were inside of an actual crystal, and they're windows. Sometimes the windows are foggy or have mist on the outside or light on the outside that you can't see any shapes. Other times they clear, as if a fog clearing off a window, and you can see the environment around you and that kind of stuff. Well, what they're saying is, now this one you're seeing around a body, a single body. You do have your own version of these, and what we're doing is getting to the point where we can activate them. But right now, nobody can fully activate them because of the mutations in the body. This particular temple that was set in the first seeding it is shaped like this. It is a three-dimensional one, but it is huge. It is about the size of this hotel, they said. But on the outside, it would look very small. So it will appear as when we come up to it that it is just like a very small thing, about maybe not even 12 inches high. But as we move into it and bring our Rashas into it, all of a sudden we find ourselves inside something that is about the size of this hotel. It is meant to be a group travel vehicle that is connected to certain very secured and safe passages. So we're going to be traveling in that, and that's why I wanted to point out the shape of this. And it will also have a flame around it. So to get into it, we'll actually have to pass through a flame, and it's an aqua, the pale aqua colored flame. We'll move through that and find ourselves as if we're little tiny people inside of this. So imagine the body's not there, and our shield will come in and it'll float into the middle as if there's a floor, a platform running through the middle, and we will all be comfortably positioned on that. And that is what we're going to use to go through the passages to get to the halls of Rishatai. And halls of Rishaté that belong to our, that connect our matrix into the cosmic one are in the Andromeda Galaxy, because that is where the Milky Way fell from, and that is the first connection point to get to the cosmic level one. So we need to get over there to M31, and there are specific passages we use to do that. The specific passages we use to do that are first we go through Shala 13 crystal core here and into what's called the Aquaferi Salasira passage. So in this journey, that is what we are doing, and we'll see more about that when we see gate interfaces. And it looks like quite a pleasant journey. Once we get there, there's one part too, that once we start to travel with this, with the Christar vehicle, the large Christar bus. It's like a large bus. It's quite beautiful, actually, from the inside. We're going to pass through. Let me see what the name of this thing is. Passage through 13 core. Okay. All right. There is a passageway that once we use that vehicle to get into Earth Shala 13 core that is connected to the core of the Aquafarian shield, and that's why it's safe, and this vehicle is also a protection thing, so we can't be dragged in to any of the messy currents that are running through Earth's Shala 13 core. Right? There's going to be a point where we pass through, how they word it. I know what it looks like, I'm just saying how they word it. Excuse me a minute. Forward, pink violet Eron membrane in Shala 13 core and globe. Okay, we're going to be passing through a membrane that is part of the crystal, the core crystal, the Nada crystal base of Earth. And it looks like, can we put the other one up, honey, please? Imagine this, but even much, much bigger. All right, remember these from these are from the Chihuahua, Mexico ones? It isn't that one, but they look like this, except a person would be about the size of that comparatively, right? Or even smaller. Yeah. So the vehicle will fit through. The vehicle we're in now, this vehicle can expand and contract its size on the outside without affecting its space on the inside, which is an interesting little thing about interdimensional travel that you find you can do. Right, don't even ask me how that works, but they said just, no, it can go down to where it's like microscopic, but you would still experience it huge. So I keep getting the visions of those movies they used to have where, like, Mommy, I Shrunk the Kids, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I think we also become very, very tiny, obviously, or we wouldn't be inside of it still. So if there may be times when they say something about that, which they just let me know about because they didn't tell me that before. But there will be a time when we pass through this, and it will help if we have the image, of what it would look like to pass through. Imagine there's going to be a pale pinky violet, I think they said, membrane, just kind of like of light, of liquid light hanging in the air over that space like a little doorway, and we're going to pass through that. And that's going to we're going to pass through it in this. We're going to travel together as a shield in this Christar vehicle. And it's going to take us through an opening like that in Earth's core and into a safe passage that will take us through what is called Aurora Ascension Earth, that is in the Aquiel matrix, that will take us over through into the Andromeda matrix and Eartha. And we will go from there through the Salasira passage, and from there we will go into the Rishaté, halls of Rishaté, the cosmic level halls of Rishaté. And our access point, our immediate access point, our closest one in where we are in the universals, is the Salasira passage of the Aquafari in Andromeda M31. So this is what this journey is about. We are going there. And then once we get there, this is where we're going to get our Iridanus. This is where we're going to pick up our Iridanus. And that's where we're going to lay the Rasha body down in there. Once we get in, we're going to get out of, it's like getting out of a big spaceship, and we're going to get out of our crystal capsule. And we get to roam around a little bit once we are in the halls. And there's a particular door that will take you down a tunnel that leads to the core cell, because we're actually going to come up from the bottom cell. If you think about the halls are clusters of spheres, of spheres of energy and light. And the access point that we're connected into, we will come up through a chamber in the bottom sphere, and from there, we will follow a doorway that will lead into the center sphere directly, and then we will be in the center area that would be the core of the Hare Krishna body in that cluster. All right. So once we get in there, that is where we will kind of get outstretched and our Rasha bodies, and then we will lay our bodies down there on our backs, and that is where we will call our iridanus to us. And it will be much easier, actually, for it to come in, because the aurora field doesn't have to do all sorts of shifting and bending, accessing it from there, because that is still in alignment with the natural structures of the Vekas. So we will call it in from there, and then there's several things they're going to ask us to do there. And we're going to, what do they say? How do they word this? Right. One of them is, there's a point where the window's clear too, right? The window's on the spaceship. So I get in there. I just want to see the main part here. It's hard to read my own writing sometimes. Stop. Oh, and walk. Yeah, okay, we're walking out. Door ahead, yeah. Don't mind me mumbling to myself. Cell in, corner, crystal, yeah. Get up with it. Center, amber, gold, pale. Right. Okay. So, all right. Yeah. Right. We're going to bring the iridanus up, laying on our backs, and then we're going to get up with it inside. With it with us, merged with our Rasha body, and there is going to be a center flame that's an amber gold flame, and we're in this sphere. And the sphere is going to be huge. It's another like hotel size space. Even it's not going to be like a little tiny cell that we're in. It's a really large one. And it's going to be so big. Or they're saying it's going to be so big that it would be like looking at a horizon line and knowing somewhere over there the sphere came down, but you won't be able to even really tell that it's spherical. It will be so large, because we're talking about cosmic level here, cosmic level light fields and things. But there will be neat things to see. Okay, so that means there's going to be things that we're all going to see that they haven't showed me. And we will go to the center. When we see this center flame area, we will go there, and each of us will simply, while the iridanus is in our body with us, where that part of us is with us, we will run our encryption into, or from the Rasha, and we'll merge with the Rasha, merge it, the encryption, put the encryption into the center flame, and just transmit it, and it will come out. I don't know what it'll look like. There'll be some kind of energy that comes out the hands, and it won't take very long. And that is setting your encryption. And it's setting your perfect encryption, where even if there's problems with your body right now, like the mutation, for example, or if there's problems that, like certain things, you have broken legs or something's diseased and that kind of stuff, that encryption will be cleared by the iridanus body being in there. So you don't set the encryption of a broken body in there. Because if you set the encryption of a broken body in a fully Christic space like that, it'll actually bounce it. It will, bounce it out. So with the iridanus in that holds our perfect imprint, it will take the imprint of the body you have and raise it to its highest level. It will probably, if you're older than 33, it will age regress it back to 33. If you're not 33 yet, it will take it to that highest level of what would be your natural Christic avatar self, which can be kind of fun, because then you can kind of play with that and step back and say, ooh, what does it look like? Right? You can get lost in those spaces, actually. What color's your hair? You know what I mean? Can you make a change at will? Like, so you don't have to bleach it? Right? Those kind of things. But it's not time for those kind of conversations. Once you go on there... You save those for you're laying in bed at night and you can't sleep, right? So I'm going to go up and just annoy the people up in the Adachi temples and ask 3 hours worth of really dumb questions. And they would be loving about it, and they would answer them. They really would, because they're trained as very good ambassadors. As long as you were being sweet about it and not obnoxious, they would answer whatever they could to assist you. Bless them. So anyway, we're going to go up there. The most important thing is to set the encryption with the iridanus in there. And then we're going to lay back down and let the iridanus rise up and float above us there, and leave it there for a while. All right? And then we're going to come back in Rasha, and we're leaving it there for a while, because there is a code transmission that is in progress, where the cosmic Rishite the Rishite halls are opening, and temporarily, and they're on an opening cycle, and they will be sending all sorts of frequencies from all of the Chris matrices over, which will have all sorts of healing codes in them. And in a particular one, they're referring to as the Jeshua healing code. And that's some kind of encryption that I think has probably a pretty decent antidote to the mutation that is on this planet. So with the Iridanis staying there and us coming back, there will be a time where it will come back on its own, but it will come when it's done. But if you work with the techniques, like if you do come tonight for the thing where ideally you lay down, if you really, really can't lay down, for the evening one, you can, again, just put your rasha, like right where you are, just as if you're laying it down and it's running through you if you're sitting. You know what I mean? But it's on the floor kind of like under you or whatever. But when we do that, it will actually accelerate the process because it will bring that natural healing wave that's coming in through the Rishite halls. It will actually pull it in a bit faster, so your Iridanis body won't need to stay there as long to pick it up, and then you will just simply bring your Iridanis body up the way they do in the technique as it was run before. Except now you're bringing it up. When you bring it up from behind, you are bringing it up from where you left it, up in the Rishite temples. Otherwise, it will come back to you either like tonight when you go to sleep, or it might take up to 3 days. It depends on how fast not so much how fast the wave itself is moving, the healing wave, but how fast your own body's currents. How many of your, let's say you have little tendrils of energy that connect you to your Iridanis body, and the more of those you have turned on, the faster it would be able to come back in. All right, they're like tether lines. So it would really be individual of how fast, but it wouldn't take more than 3 days for it to return with that healing encryption of the rest of the Jeshua code. What we'll do I don't know if we're going to do it right after, or if we're going to... Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good, because it should have a bit of time, and I was like, we're not going to have time to give it a bit of time. Okay, if everybody is coming, we can do that. Everybody's coming tonight? Okay, because it's best to have a little bit of time to let things sit before you do the full bio sound tone activations. And what these sound tones are the audible parts of the tones of the Jeshua code, are actually the names of the gate stars that are in the Aquiel matrix and also in the Andromeda natural matrix from this system. So they are actually the encryption names of those places and used in specific ways. And the other parts of the tones are the ring and span tones for each of the domain bodies. So it means it activates the Rasha bodies, all layers of it, and the other activates the very ancient code from the first seedings here that have the only people that have the full spectrum of it are the ones that were direct descendants of that seventh line of Jeshua. But everybody's got a little bit of it, and they will bring back the rest of the encryption of it, so you will get a copy of the crystal core keepers codes. It will come in, and that was part of the gift of Aquiel, that the race line, if it survived, they would be able to open the Christ Star vehicle that could travel these chambers, and then they would be able to bring back the wave that would allow other people to get the encryption, should they want it. I mean, if you don't want the encryption in Jeshua code, just say, okay, not right now, I'll think about it later, and you can go to the Adashi temples and ask how to get involved with that next. So it's never a mandatory thing, just so you know, with any of these. If you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it right now. You can even just watch. You just say, I don't want to deal with the energies right now, I'm not too sure. So if there's no pressure whatsoever about participating. So anyway, that's a bit pretty much of a rundown on what we're going to do, and we might as well get to it. By the way, I'll remind you again, if I go into my Pennsylvanian accent from Eartha, no, I'm not channeling. Yes, it is me. But I am bringing in enough frequencies from my Eartha self where it literally just comes out as an accent. And I find that really interesting. Whereas I sit in my head going, yep, she's me, she's there again. Because it is me there, but I can also shift sometimes and be as her, where I can look through her eyes and see where she lives and be her there. And this is some of the things that eventually you get to be able to do when you start getting your frequencies turned back on and your memory matrix turned back on, where you can literally know yourselves well, right? And look out in other times and walk around with them sometimes, and that kind of thing. And of course, they can do that with you too, but only if both sides give permission. Right? So, anyway, on with this.